In his past life, this young man was a mere insect expert, but after reincarnating, he unknowingly became the strongest poison master in the martial world, the slayer of the colossal azure-spotted centipede. A beast that once terrified the entire martial world is now just his personal pet. Even the Hornet Queen, ruler of 10,000 bees across the land, was personally raised by his hand. These cute little larvae look harmless, obediently protecting their master. But don't be fooled. Each one is a vessel of a heavenly poison, a rarity in this world. Dare to challenge him, and even the demons of the evil cults will meet their end. Our story begins with a young man named Xiao Long, who was once a famous streamer making videos about all kinds of insects and venomous creatures. But one fateful day, a deadly snakebite ended it all, and he was reborn into the world of martial arts. Yet, no matter the world, Xiao Long could never abandon his passion for collecting poisonous creatures. Today, a group of travelers appeared, seeking shelter for the night as darkness fell. Looking at their distinct attire, he immediately recognized them as members of the Sichuan clan. Xiao Long agreed, telling them they could rest anywhere they wished. However, the main hall was a place he was currently using, and they were not to go near it. The Tang clan's patriarch, Tang Shan, heard this and clasped his hands, thanking the young hero. Afterwards, Xiao Long excused himself. He had important business to attend to. As it turns out, that business was feeding his precious pets. Xiao Long entered the house and opened a jar. Inside were several cricket-like insects. He hugged the jar, whispering, "I'm almost late. Everyone must be hungry, right?" Then, he reached over to open another lid. Inside this jar was a black earth tiger spider, a tarantula species native to the Hainan region. When fully grown, their size can reach up to 20 centimeters. Xiao Long used chopsticks to offer a cricket to Little Black. Smelling the delicious meal, the spider devoured it greedily, as if starved for days. "Old man, you have one job, and that's feeding me, and you're always late." Xiao Long then moved on to a nearby cabinet. Inside a drawer was a tokay gecko, another species native to this region. It was characterized by the striking stripes on its body and tail. In his past life, getting a tokay gecko was nearly impossible due to the lack of supply. But now, all he has to do is step outside, and he can find them crawling everywhere. Seeing him just standing there without offering food, the gecko grew angry. "You've been my keeper for a while now," it seemed to snap, biting down on Xiao Long's finger. He cried out in pain. Just then, Tangshan suddenly appeared to find him. He thanked Xiao Long again for allowing them to shelter from the rain, and asked if they would like to join them for dinner. They had just hunted a deer in the forest. Hearing the word meat, Xiao Long's eyes began to sparkle, and tears welled up. It turns out, ever since he was reincarnated here, he hadn't had a single proper meal. He had been surviving on snakes, centipedes, and lizards. Thinking this, Xiao Long immediately and happily agreed. "Finally, I get to eat real meat." The scene shifts to a different location, where everyone is gathered around a bonfire, roasting the venison. The rich, savory aroma filled the air, causing Xiao Long's mouth to water uncontrollably. While waiting for the meat to cook, Tangshan started a conversation, asking if Xiao Long lived alone on the mountain. "And how old are you?" Xiao Long replied, "Probably around 14 or 15. Not wanting to reveal too much, he evasively claimed that, as a child, he had suffered a head injury and couldn't remember his past clearly. He said he had lived on the mountain alone ever since, catching and selling snakes to survive. After chatting for a while, the meat was finally cooked. Tangshan's father, Tang Jun, handed him a large deer leg, still hot and steaming. Xiao Long said, "Thank you, senior," and happily took the leg. He immediately took a huge bite, his teeth sinking in. The sensation was like it was melting in his mouth. The venison was both tender and fragrant, marinated, with the perfect blend of spices. It was beyond delicious. The perfect roasting temperature had kept the meat succulent and juicy, not dry at all. It had been so long since Xiao Long had eaten such delicious grilled meat, and he was overwhelmed with happiness. During the meal, Tangshan revealed to Xiao Long that they were searching for a giant centipede, with azure spots on its body. They called it the azure-spotted centipede, and its size was immense. If it was a fully grown adult, even a human would be nothing more than a meal for it. The reason Tangshan wanted to capture it was because his daughter was bedridden with a severe illness. Only the centipede's inner core could save her life. Xiao Long was touched. A parent's love knows no bounds, he thought. Although he felt sorry for the centipede, they had invited him to this feast, so he would help them. With this thought, Xiao Long immediately spoke up. "While I don't know what an azure-spotted centipede is, I think I can guess where it's hiding." Xiao Long was more confident in his knowledge of poisons than anyone else. Of the 8.7 million living creatures, about 20,000 species are known to be venomous. He had committed all of that knowledge to his memory, species by species, and centipedes were no exception. With his expertise, the world of poisons was in the palm of his hand. Xiaolong picked up a book and focused his entire mind. Pages began to flip on their own, emitting a magical light. After a moment, he snapped the book shut and said cheerfully, "Found it." Xiaolong winked excitedly. "So, if it's a large centipede, I think I know where it is." Tangshan was astonished. "What did you say? Is that true?" Tang Jun also chimed in. "If so, where could it be?" Xiaolong thought for a moment, then looked at the two men. "I wonder. What areas have you already searched? And at what time of day? Could you tell me?" Although he didn't know why Xiaolong was asking, Tangshan replied, "We've searched to the north and east of here, mostly during the daytime. To the north, we searched mainly along the riverbank." Xiaolong rubbed his chin and muttered, "I see." Internally, he thought, "As I expected. That's the reason you couldn't find it." The two were stunned. With that approach, it's only natural you couldn't detect it. Tang Jun blurted out, "What? Natural? What do you mean?" the old man asked hastily. Xiaolong smiled smugly. "Of course, centipedes are arthropods, part of the Myriapoda subphylum. They have a wide range of activity and are cold-blooded animals. Therefore, they need a hiding place to maintain a stable temperature and humidity. The interesting thing is, unlike most insects, which have a waterproof cuticle, a centipede's is weak, with breathing pores on the surface of its shell. This means they actually avoid places with too much water. Though they need a high humidity environment, they dislike areas with an abundance of water. Conversely, without humidity, they also cannot survive for long. This is a unique characteristic of the centipede species." Sitting on the porch, Xiaolong continued to provide information. Therefore, the azure-spotted centipede, with its massive body, would be highly unlikely to reside in a dense forest or near a river. Tang Jun felt a headache coming on. "I can't believe it. So, the places centipedes like aren't rotting wood crevices? Some smaller centipede species can be found in places like that. But you're talking about a massive centipede, right?" Xiaolong continued his lecture. "If its body is that large, then the places it would hide. A fallen tree or a riverside rock won't do. The creature needs a proper place to hide." After hearing this, Tangshan and Tang Jun exchanged a knowing glance. The old man leaned in, his voice filled with worry. "If we find it where you say, we will reward you handsomely." Xiaolong smirked, pointing confidently at the mountain ahead. "You should search the western stone mountain," he declared. "These centipedes rest under sun-warmed rocks during the day and only emerge to hunt when night falls." As darkness fell, moonlight bathed the treacherous cliffs. The search party spread out, scanning every inch of the mountain's peak. Tangshan stood firm, his brow furrowed in deep thought. Just then, a subordinate rushed over. "Family head, what if the young hero's words were wrong?" He fell silent, then leaped to the ground. "We'll rest here for the night," Tangshan commanded. "Fire the signal flare to recall the other teams." The soldier obeyed instantly. "Yes, family head." A brilliant flare shot up, illuminating the darkness. As they rested, the men grumbled amongst themselves. "Gods, I'm exhausted. I hope that young hero was right. Where could this cursed centipede be hiding? He seemed smart enough, but this is impossible." Suddenly, they heard a noise from Tangshan's direction. They saw him clenching his jaw, his body trembling. "Tang Nan Ni," he whispered in a strained voice. "She is the greatest genius in the history of the Tang clan. Has heaven truly abandoned us?" At that very moment, a cry rang out. "The Grand Elder has returned." The men immediately bowed in respect. "Welcome back, sir." Tang Jun approached Tangshan, his expression grim. "Still no sign of it today?" "No, father," Tangshan replied, his voice heavy. "Did you find anything?" Tang Jun let out a soft cough. "I did, but the situation isn't good. Tangnan, Nai can only hold on for 3 more months at most. I don't know if we can find it in the next 10 days. A heavy silence fell between them, sharing the same unspoken fear. "Father," Tangshan suggested, "tomorrow, perhaps we should search the south? We haven't found a single trace here," the old man sighed. "Very well." But then, suddenly, Tang Jun's eyes widened. "No traces?" he exclaimed. He slapped his forehead and burst into laughter. "That's it. Of course. Why didn't I realize it sooner? It has to be this place." A spark of hope ignited in Tangshan's eyes. "Father, have you discovered something?" But Tang Jun's answer was completely unexpected. "Not in the way you think. I haven't found any traces or felt any presence at all." Tangshan stared in confusion. Exactly. Nothing? Yes, the old man confirmed. Because there is nothing. And that is precisely why I know it is here. Tong Jun scanned the surroundings. In the last 3 days, have you found anything on this stone mountain? No, sir, we haven't found a single clue. The old man stroked his chin, deep in thought. No animal droppings, no territorial markings. There's truly nothing at all. As the words left his lips, his eyes shot open. Could it be? Realization dawned on both men at once. That's right, the Grand Elder said with excitement. It's impossible for a mountain this vast to be completely devoid of animal life. Tangshan clenched his fists, his voice a low whisper. This is its territory. Precisely, Tongjun beamed. And because of that, all the other beasts have either fled for their lives or have become its prey. He clapped his son's shoulder. The azure-striped centipede is definitely here. Now we can, finally, save Ngani. Seeing a sliver of light, Tangshan bit his lip. Finally. But before he could finish, the ground began to shake violently. What is this? The men cried out in panic. What in the world is happening? One shouted. Another was so terrified he stumbled right into the bonfire, oblivious to the flames. Where the fire once blazed, a massive explosion erupted. Tang Jun and Tang Shan stood frozen in shock. What was that? A razor-sharp pincer smashed down from above, shattering the ground. The soldiers stammered in pure terror. That thing. Rocks and debris rained down upon them. The Grand Elder's face went pale. It's here. And then, the colossal form of the azure-striped centipede began to emerge from the darkness. Meanwhile, back in the city, panicked screams echoed through the streets. What a mess, Xiaolong mumbled lazily. He stretched out, wondering to himself, just how big is that centipede to cause such a panic? They were supposed to find it, not tear down the entire mountain. Xiaolong smirked. A centipede big enough to swallow me whole, huh? A thrill of excitement ran through him. Now I'm really curious. The scene shifts to the mountain at night. The men surround the massive carcass of the defeated beast. Tongjun opened a box, revealing its prize. This is the inner core of the azure-striped centipede. A wave of emotion washed over the crowd. The old man shielded his face, clearing his throat. With this, we can finally save Ngani. Tangshan, his body battered and bruised, stepped forward. Father, please have the uninjured warriors head to Sichuan first. Tangjun looked puzzled. What are you suggesting? Tangshan gazed into the distance. A debt of kindness must be repaid, and a debt of blood must be answered in kind. Isn't there still something we need to do here? Tangshan asked. The Grand Elder smacked his own head. Right. I almost made a huge mistake. I was so focused on Ngani. Tangjun carefully stored the inner core away. Of course, we must treat the young hero as a guest of honor. Whatever he desires, we must grant it. Yes, let the injured warriors stay in the village to recover. In the meantime, I will go meet our young benefactor, Tangshan added. I'm sure the young hero is anxious for our news as well. Xiaolong sat with a gloomy expression, surrounded by strange creatures. They crawled all over him affectionately. What am I supposed to do now? He groaned. Overnight, I've become the father of the azure-striped centipede's children. In his room, Xiaolong muttered to himself. My plan was to go home, clean the egg, and put it by my pillow. And when I woke up, I'd see it. He looked down at the tiny creatures, crawling on him. But my dear babies, you've all hatched already. He stared at their round bodies and rabbit-like ears, trying to keep his composure. I expected this, but I never thought they'd hatch so quickly. He glanced at one snuggled against his cheek, fast asleep. Suddenly, it wet itself, and he yelped in shock. Hey, everyone, give me some space, he thought to himself. The problem is, I think these little guys see me as their mother. One of them was chewing on his shirt. They just won't leave me alone, not even for a second. The night before, deep in a mountain ravine, he had found the azure-striped centipede's hidden lair. The closer he got to the cave, the more menacing it felt. He accidentally kicked something. What the hell is this? A beetle the size of a man's fist? He held the torch in his hand, but then dropped it, collapsing to the ground, panting heavily. Xiaolong wiped the sweat from his brow. That was too close. He checked his pouch. At least the 3 eggs are still safe. He rubbed his head and mumbled. It's a good thing the rain stopped, or I wouldn't have saved any of them. But then, he noticed something, and shot to his feet. This is no time to linger. I have to get back and clean these eggs. He tied the pouch securely to his belt. All right, he declared, his face beaming with excitement. My little centipedes, just you wait. And then, The eggs hatched. He sat there, sighing. I never even saw the living azure-striped centipede. Saving these eggs was a stroke of incredible luck, but these adorable little guys just won't stop clinging to Xiaolong, making things a bit awkward. He mutters, "Hey now, aren't you planning on leaving my side anytime soon?" The mischievous creatures crawl down his back as he mumbles, "I know you don't need to eat until your second molting, so I don't have to worry about food. But having you stuck to me like this is a real problem." Suddenly, an idea strikes Xiaolong. "If I get in the water, maybe you'll leave on your own." A wicked grin spreads across his face, terrifying the little centipedes. He declares, "All right, time for a bath." Early the next morning, Tang Sun, his body wrapped in bandages, walks with determined steps. He arrives before a specific room, his voice booming. "Young master, are you in there?" Waiting by the door for a moment, he calls out again, "Young master?" Hearing no response from within, he gently pushes the door open, announcing, "Young master, I'm coming in." As he scans the room, Tang Sun realizes it's empty. He murmurs, "Herbs, jars, and vials. Even a medicine chest." Looking at the collection of herbs, he wonders, could this young master be an expert in the medical arts? With a sigh, he scolds himself. "I shouldn't have entered an empty room so freely. It's incredibly rude." With that, Tang Sun decides to leave. "I will return later." But suddenly, he hears a strange noise. His curiosity piqued, he turns back, whispering, "What is that sound?" Behind him are several large jars. He cautiously approaches, lifts a lid, and gasps in utter shock. This is... He sees a spider clutching something white in its jaws. He breathes out. A spirit spider. Glancing at the medicine cabinet, he whispers, "Impossible." Tang Sun immediately pulls open a drawer and finds a striped orange creature inside. He questions, "Is this a stone lizard?" Unable to believe his eyes, he realizes, a pot holds strange brown insects. A basin contains bizarre eggs, and a box is filled with dried snakes. He was frozen in place. Utterly thunderstruck, he mumbles, "That specific type of lizard. It felt like he'd stumbled into a den of venomous beasts." He exclaims, "This is unbelievable." A thought flashes through Tang Sun's mind. Could it be? He's actively raising these poisonous creatures and breeding them? Even the legendary Tang family, famous for their poisons, only ever managed and extracted toxins. The thought of cultivating them on this scale was unimaginable. He quietly closes the door and steps outside, murmuring, "To think, a simple twist of fate led me to the one who saved the life of my precious daughter." Clenching his fist, Tang Sun wonders, could this young master truly be my fated opportunity? Suddenly, a voice calls out from behind him, "Senior!" He turns to see Xiaolong running towards him. "Young master!" The boy rushes over, asking with concern, "What happened to your arm? Are you injured anywhere else?" Tang Sun places a hand on the boy's shoulder. "It is nothing serious. In fact, what I need to say is..." Abruptly, he feels a chilling presence. What is this? A vile, sinister aura erupts from behind the boy. The door shatters as a strange figure appears, radiating killing intent. A terrifying smile, revealing rows of sharp teeth. Tang Sun instantly shoves Xiaolong aside, roaring, "Young master, get out of here." Confused, the boy can only ask, "Senior, what's going on?" Meanwhile, the intruder has already assumed an attack stance. He flies through the air, everything around him shattering in his wake as he hurtles straight towards Tang Sun. Power converges in his arm as he unleashes a devastating blow, sending the old man flying. Blood erupts from his lips from the grievous wound. Tang Sun stumbles, realizing the enemy's terrifying power. He mutters, "A master, on par with my own father." He screams, "Young master, run." But before the words even leave his lips, the assailant has Xiaolong by the throat, hoisting him into the air. The boy chokes out, "Senior." The villain, 𝒔𝒐𝒏, laughs triumphantly. "I heard the Tang family had come to Hainan, so I came for a look. But it seems the serpent of the myriad venom divine lord has been tamed and left all alone like this." Tang Sun struggles to his feet, coughing. "Who are you?" he demands. "Why are you tormenting this young man and me?" 𝒔𝒐𝒏 roars with laughter. "You should know, just by looking at this face, and my crimson fist, your father made me this way. I am the blood hand Asura, 𝒔𝒐𝒏." Tang Sun's eyes widen as he recalls the man. He whispers, 𝒔𝒐𝒏, they said, he was poisoned. And fell from a cliff into the sea. It seems he somehow survived. Seeing Xiaolong struggling, Tang Sun yells, "That young man has nothing to do with us." Let him go. He then offers, take my life in exchange for the boys. The villain tightens his grip. I refuse. If you so much as touch me, you'll die. This demon, a martial artist of his caliber, will bring ruin to the world. Tang Sun grinds his teeth in fury, muttering, in the end, that monster has no intention of letting the young master go. Just then, Xiaolong, choked to his absolute limit, can't hold on any longer. 𝒔𝒐𝒏 cackles. Die. The boy forces out his last words, please. Save me. Suddenly, the tiny centipedes erupt from his clothes, swarming onto the demon's arm. They begin biting him relentlessly. 𝒔𝒐𝒏 panics. What is this? Centipedes? He tries to shake them off, screaming, how can mere centipedes possibly harm me? But the creatures pump their venom into his body, causing him to vomit blood. Finally, �𝒐𝒏 collapses, screaming, damn it! He lies motionless at Xiaolong's feet. The boy stares in terror, whispering, my God, he's really dead? He nudges the body with his foot. Hey, are you alive? Tang Sun stands there, his jaw hanging open, completely stupefied. Then, he begins to laugh. A laugh like he'd just struck gold. He murmurs, not just a guest. This young master is a treasure. Xiaolong continues poking the body with a stick. In the end, he would become a member of the Tang family. At the Taoist temple, several days after �𝒐𝒏's fall, a sigh of relief echoes through a room. Wei Xiaolong is tending to the still recovering Tang Sun, who lies weakly in bed. The old man speaks, thank you, young master. Hearing his voice, Xiaolong replies, we can't delay any longer. Senior, if you tell me where your home is, I will go and check on things. After speaking, he turns away, scratching his chin thoughtfully. No, that won't work. I can't leave you here alone, Senior. But I can't exactly call a regular doctor, either. Hearing this, Tang Sun quickly insists, I am fine, do not worry. A few days of recovery is all I need. Xiaolong is inwardly amazed. This old man lost so much blood, yet he speaks so calmly. He remembers the image of Tang Sun coughing up a pool of blood, yet still trying to reassure him, I'm fine. Xiaolong immediately refutes him. Please don't say that. Your condition is extremely serious right now. Tang Sun takes a weak breath and replies, it's all right. Fearing the boy would worry more, he adds another sentence, I am a man of the martial world. Xiaolong's eyes widen in surprise. The martial world? A martial artist? He asks excitedly, you mean like those people who can fly and use palm techniques? The old man smiles. Not everyone can do such things. But you could say that's correct. The young man is astonished, thinking to himself, amazing. This world is truly something different. Otherwise, seeing a centipede as big as a house would make no sense. Tang Sun's voice cuts through his thoughts. In any case, this is a debt I must repay. This old man owes you his life, although, perhaps, model. Forgive my rudeness, but allow me to properly introduce myself. He presented himself. I am Tang Xueshan of the Sichuan Tang clan. The young man replied without missing a beat. I am Wei Xiaolong. The old man closed his eyes, savoring the name, Xiaolong. It means little dragon, a fine name. Then, his gaze sharpened as he asked, I have many more questions for you. If you would be so kind as to answer? The boy replied respectfully, yes, please ask away. The master voiced his first query. These venomous creatures, the black ones, are they centipedes? The boy glanced down at the larvae crawling on his body, prodding one gently. He confirmed, that's right, they're the larvae of the azure-striped centipede. Tangshan was so stunned he shot upright, exclaiming, you're telling me you've tamed the larvae of the azure-striped centipede? The boy was startled by his sudden outburst and yelled back, Senior, please, lie back down. But the master ignored his advice, pressing on, where? How could you possibly tame such a thing? The boy stammered. Cut him off. Are you also the one who raised these poisonous insects? The boy hesitated for a moment, then spoke with a hint of shyness. Well, that is. He took a breath and said, it might be. A bit of a long story. Would you like to hear it? The master cleared his throat, covering his mouth. It's fine. Tell me everything. The boy began. Then I'll start from when they were just the eggs of the azure-striped centipede. It all happened like this. The night outside the temple was silent, as if listening to Xiaolong's tale. After hearing it all, Tang Shan asked in amazement, wait a moment, you mean you found the eggs yourself and nurtured them? The boy replied, yes, that's right. I could even guess when the eggs would hatch. The master broke into a cold sweat, thinking, who could possibly Know the exact day an egg will hatch? How did he do it? The boy then said, "Please wait a moment, senior." With that, Xiaolong opened a cabinet, took out some other creatures, and asked, "Would you like to see these?" He held one up proudly, introducing it. "This is a common cave lizard. Its body has yellow stripes, and its tail has white bands," he continued, presenting another one. "And this one here. I selected those with large white bands on their tails for breeding, and the result was these two distinct colors." Tang Shan stared at the imperset creatures before him and gasped. "It can't be," he suddenly shouted. "Are you telling me you created these color patterns yourself?" The boy confirmed cheerfully. "That's right. Aren't they beautiful?" The old man swallowed hard, a wild idea forming in his mind. Then, does that mean if you breed insects with potent venom, you could create a species with even stronger poison? The boy was a little taken aback by the question. His mind raced with the possibilities. Theoretically, it's possible. After some consideration, he said, "If you know which one has the stronger venom, then it's definitely possible." He hesitated. "But that would be difficult." The master suddenly boomed. "What do you mean? Possible?" Startled, the boy flinched. The old man placed a firm hand on his shoulder and made a serious proposition. "Join my clan." The boy was shocked. "Huh?" The master's voice rose with passion. "If you join our Tang clan, you will be taught all of our ultimate martial arts techniques, with no reservations. Precious herbs, spirit grasses, and any kind of poison you desire will be within your grasp," he continued, his eyes gleaming. "With your talent, you could probably capture or even raise one of the legendary 10 great poisonous insects of the Central Plains." And if that wasn't tempting enough, Tangshan played his ultimate card. "This is no idle boast, but one of the 3 treasures of the Central Plains is my daughter." Xiaolong hastily tried to stop him. "Wait a minute," he interjected. "What did you just say?" The old man was surprised for a moment. Then realization dawned on him. He roared with laughter. "You're young, but you're a man after all. That's why you reacted that way. My daughter is one of the 3 treasures of the Central Plains." Seeing the misunderstanding, the boy shouted, "No, no, it's not that kind of condition." He imagined the 10 great poisonous insects the master mentioned, clenching his fists as he asked with burning intensity, "The 10 great poisonous insects of the Central Plains, are they as formidable as the azure-striped centipede?" The master's voice was firm. "Absolutely. Of course, they are." He smirked with pride. "The azure-striped centipede is formidable, but it's still a low-grade poison insect. It cannot compare to the 10 great poisonous insects of the Central Plains." He described centipedes as large as houses and golden ones that shimmered, like pure gold. Xiaolong's imagination ran wild with every word. But the master continued, "Whatever you're thinking, the reality is far more incredible." Tangshan let out a soft sigh. This is truly a strange turn of events. He looked at Xiaolong's bright, excited face and the 2 larvae peeking from his shirt, then declared with certainty, "It seems my persuasion was a success." 2 days later, at the temple, one of Tangshan's disciples cried out upon hearing the news, "Did you say the blood hand Asura, Jiayuxiang, appeared?" Tangshan replied, "Indeed. I was nearly in grave danger. I never expected he was hiding away, honing his skills. He's now reached a realm nearly equal to my father." The disciples were terrified, stammering, that means." One disciple couldn't form a sentence. Then, suddenly, another had a thought and spoke up. "Huh? Wait a minute. Does that mean the clan head killed him? Have you reached the myriad poisons realm?" Another disciple immediately cheered. "Congratulations." The rest quickly chimed in, "Oh, congratulations, clan head." The old man sighed, shaking his head. "No, that's not it," he continued. "The one who killed him was not me, but this young hero right here." One disciple blurted out, It was this young hero?" He then turned, grabbing Xiaolong's hands tightly and shouting, "It was you, young hero." The disciples immediately bowed. "Thank you, young hero, for saving our clan head's life." Sichuan, Tang clan's head. "Could it be that you are a grandmaster who has achieved eternal youth?" The boy was completely baffled by their words and asked, "Huh? What eternal youth? What are you talking about?" Tangshan calmly cut in. "Young hero, there seems to be a misunderstanding. Could you show them?" Xiaolong thought for a moment, then agreed. "All right, little ones, come on, out." The disciples' eyes widened at the sight of squirming creatures peeking their heads out from his clothes. The tiny larvae chirped as they looked around curiously. Seeing them clearly, the disciples gasped in amazement. "Oh, aren't those centipedes? So these are the creatures that defeated Jiayuxiang." One of them suddenly shouted, a hint of fear in his voice. What? Is their poison safe? Another disciple yelled, unable to hide his admiration. You've tamed the azure, striped centipede? How can such a young hero be so talented? Tang Shan continued smoothly. For this reason, I have decided to accept this young hero into our clan. A disciple exclaimed with excitement. Oh, young hero, this is truly a great opportunity. Tang Shan's voice then drew the attention of the excited group. His hands clenched as he spoke with gravity. It seems we should not delay any longer. Xiaolong asked. Senior, is there something else you need to find? The old man remained silent, lost in thought. Then, he spoke in a serious tone. The blood hand asura, Jia Yuxiang. The martial art he practiced was the blood hand poison claw, a terrifyingly evil technique. It requires human blood and marrow to advance its realm. The boy thought in horror. What kind of monstrous evil art is that? The master made a firm decision. If he left behind a manual or has any successors, we must eliminate the threat completely. We cannot allow such a cruel art to reappear in the martial world. He clenched his fist. If anyone was captured by him, we have a duty to help them, do we not? The disciples agreed in unison. Of course, clan head. He turned to Xiaolong and asked, Young hero, would you be willing to lend me a hand? You seem to know the lay of Hainan Island well. Xiaolong fell silent, lost in deep thought. As the larvae drew closer, chirping faintly, he closed his eyes, contemplating his path. Becoming a member of the Tang clan felt less like an internship and more like accepting a lifelong, binding mission. Isn't an apprenticeship for observing a company's atmosphere and sizing up the character of its leader? He smiled brightly. I understand. Once you've fully recovered, I will give you my complete support. Hearing this, the old disciple's eyes lit up with intrigue. Tang Shan praised him. A sharp way of thinking, young hero. A brilliant smile spread across the boy's face. Saving a life is the natural thing to do. He appeared humble on the surface, but a different thought echoed in his mind. During this journey, I must thoroughly investigate the Sichuan Tang clan. A smirk touched his lips. The truly talented always conduct a reverse interview. 3 days had passed since the old master, Ti Shan, had recovered his strength. Their group, led by Tang Shan, Wei Xiaolong, and the other disciples, set out to find the hidden lair of the blood hand asura, Jia Yunxiang. They stopped at a village nestled beside an abandoned Taoist temple and began their inquiries. They asked the locals about any disappearances. A villager answered with a worried tone. You're asking about the missing people? An old man recalled. Over the past year, maybe 1 or 2 have vanished in the forest, but it happens quite rarely. Tang Shan stroked his beard, deep in thought. The group cupped their hands in gratitude. On behalf of the group, Tang Shan said, Thank you, village chief. The old man replied with enthusiasm, Not at all. It is an honor to assist the Tang clan. Then, I shall take my leave, the master stated. The chief replied, May your journey be a safe one. Unfortunately, they hadn't gathered any new information and had to continue on their way. Xiaolong felt a nagging sense of doubt. This village felt different. Tang Shan's expression was grim. A thought weighed heavily on his mind. For him to reveal himself to us like that, I assumed he'd be hiding somewhere nearby. Finding him is proving to be a real challenge. The boy agreed. It is strange. How could he leave absolutely no trace? Xiaolong replayed Jia Yunxiang's surprise attack in his mind, trying to remember. What were his exact words? As he pondered, it suddenly hit him. Senior, do you remember what he said right when he appeared? Tang Shan turned to him. I don't recall clearly. And you? Xiaolong's mind raced. At that moment, I was struck and sent flying. He paused, piecing it all together. Yes. I've got it, he analyzed. He said that the Tang clan had entered Hainan Island, didn't he? Is that so? The master asked, intrigued. Xiaolong pressed on. If that's true, it means someone must have seen us arrive on Hainan Island and reported our presence to Jia Yunxiang. The master nodded slowly. That seems likely. Excitement surged in Xiaolong's voice. Then it's simple. We just need to retrace our steps on the island. If we use a detailed description of our group and ask around, we are sure to find him. The master and his disciples stared at the boy in utter astonishment. Tang Shan laughed heartily. I never would have thought of that. Truly brilliant. If the Bloodhand Asura said that, he must have gotten the information from someone we encountered. Xiaolong felt a bit flustered by the high praise. All right then, it's settled, the master declared. We move out immediately. Their journey continued, leading them to another village, one shrouded in a heavy, oppressive gloom. As they entered, Xiaolong spoke up. Master, I heard there is a port on Hainan Island. This village is a strong possibility. Tang Shan observed their surroundings. It seems this is a place where only women reside. He gave the order. Let's investigate. As the young hero suggested, perhaps the women here will be less hostile toward us. The disciples replied in unison. Yes, Master. Within the village, the people were despondent and spiritless. Many looked lost in a daze, some even lying collapsed in front of their homes. A villager sat working in silence as they called out, "Is anyone here?" The sound of their voices finally drew the villagers' attention. As the group entered, a local asked, "What business do you have in a village of women?" Tang Shan was slightly taken aback. He saw the village chief holding a little girl's hand, flanked by two young men. He raised his head and introduced himself. "I am Tang Tishan, master of the Sichuan Tang clan. We have come here for a specific reason." While the master spoke, Xiaolong silently scanned the area. He could feel it in the air. This village was utterly devoid of life force. Even the children had no energy. A chilling thought crossed his mind. What is wrong with these people? Could they all have been poisoned? The village chief spoke again. Disappearances? I know nothing of them, because nothing of the sort has happened here. His expression suddenly hardened. You should go back the way you came. Tang Shan tried to persuade him, noticing how sparse the homes seemed. But the old man screamed, "This is not a matter for outsiders to be concerned with. Go back." Both Tang Shan and Xiaolong were stunned by his aggressive reaction. The master turned and whispered, "Young hero, I was told. The people here were very friendly." Xiaolong was just as confused. "Yes, that's what I heard too." Just then, the child holding the chief's hand suddenly collapsed to the ground. "Ma Zhen!" the old man shrieked in terror. "She's collapsed," Xiaolong thought. The old man broke down, sobbing hysterically. "Oh God, Ma Zhen, this can't be happening. You're the only family I have left in this world. Why must even you suffer from this wicked disease?" Tang Shan immediately knelt before the grieving man. "Village chief, I have some knowledge of medicine. Perhaps I can be of assistance." The old man looked up, his eyes wide. "Medicine? From the Central Plains?" "Yes," the master replied. "I am no grand physician, but I have some understanding. May I examine the child?" The chief desperately agreed, clinging to this last shred of hope as he began to explain. "It started some time ago. A terrible plague fell upon our village. The children died, one after another, and the adults grow weaker and weaker by the day." Tang Shan placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "I see. Let me take a look." Tears of gratitude streamed down the old man's face. Thank you so much," the chief urged them. "Please, come inside quickly," and then yelled to the others. "What are you all waiting for? Quickly, bring the great doctor and his group inside." Everyone scrambled to move into the house. As they ran, Xiaolong asked one of the disciples, "Senior, the master is skilled in medicine as well?" "Ah, that's right," he replied. "Our Tang clan's martial arts deals extensively with poisons, so we've naturally become quite proficient in pharmacology. Besides, true martial arts begins with a deep understanding of the human body. Some medical knowledge is essential." An idea suddenly struck Xiaolong. "I always thought you were just an assassination group that specialized in using poison. But joining the Sichuan Tang clan meant learning more than just fearsome killing arts. Learning medicine is actually quite interesting," the disciple added with a chilling smile. "Ah, and sometimes we capture criminals and inject them with our experimental toxins just to observe the reactions. That's also quite interesting." Xiaolong froze in his tracks. Human experiments? The image of Tang Shan and his sinister disciples flashed in his mind. He shuddered. That seems a little extreme. These people were truly terrifying. Under the gloomy sky, the first faint rays of a new day struggled to break through. Inside a house, Ma Zhen lay completely motionless. A sickly green aura pulsed from her entire body, and her eyes were sealed shut. Tang Shan spoke grimly to the chief. "First, I've infused my internal energy into her body to suppress the foul air." Sighing, the old man replied, "Oh, thank you, sir." He stroked Ma Zhen's hair, his voice filled with sorrow. "This is my only grandchild. Please, I'm begging you to help her." Tang Shan leaned in, observing. "It seems her blood vessels are unstable. How strange. Was this child's heart weak from birth?" he asked. The old man shook his head. "Her illness only became severe 6 months ago. And it's not just my granddaughter. Many others are suffering from the same sickness." The elder explained, "We call it the 𝒏𝒔𝒔𝒏. The reason I told everyone to turn back at the main gate was because of this." Xiaolong immediately understood, exclaiming, "So that's what it was." Tang Shan addressed the elder. "Sir, first, I will prescribe a potent medicine for the blood vessels. Please, Gather all the villagers for me. We need to test this remedy. Overcome with emotion, the old man began to sob. Thank you, sir. Thank you. I am eternally grateful. As this unfolded, Xiaolong silently observed Tangshan with a gentle smile. Later, as night fell, one of the disciples approached. Patriarch, he began. You've worked so hard treating everyone. Thank you, 𝒏𝒔𝒐𝒏, Tangshan replied. He then asked, what is the status of the patients? After a moment of thought, he remarked, this situation is truly bizarre. He began to analyze the symptoms aloud. Weakness, swelling around the eyes, unstable blood vessels, and a low-grade fever. The symptoms vary, but the most severe cases all have problems with their hearts. Suddenly, he remembered. And what about that young hero? 𝒏𝒔𝒐𝒏 reported. The young master seemed exhausted after helping everyone, so he fell asleep. I've already taken him to a room to rest. An image of his disciples carrying the boy flashed in Tangshan's mind. The disciple sighed. The young master truly gave it his all. Tangshan added, with his physical condition and no martial arts training, following us must have been grueling for him. By the way, he said, we should go check on the young hero's condition. Allow me to lead the way, 𝒏𝒔𝒐𝒏 replied. They arrived at his room. The door creaked open, revealing Xiaolong, fast asleep and completely unaware. Tangshan didn't enter, but simply stood outside, watching him silently. But then, he suddenly shoved the door open. He rushed to the boy's bedside, and his hand flashed down like lightning. A sharp slap echoed through the room, jolting Xiaolong awake with a cry of pain. Stunned, he stared up at the man, his eyes blazing with indignation. Senior, he cried out, his mind reeling with confusion. Why would he suddenly attack? That unexpected strike from Tangshan left him completely bewildered. Clutching his stinging cheek, he stammered, what was that? He scrambled back against the wall. What's going on, senior? That really hurt. Tangshan's tone immediately softened. My apologies. I was just trying to catch a bug that was crawling on your cheek. Xiaolong frowned. A bug? Tangshan said awkwardly. Just listen to me. He glanced toward the doorway. I only wanted to check on you before retiring for the night. And unexpectedly, Tangshan said, gesturing, I spotted a bug. It suddenly flew over and landed right on your face. You see, he continued, his eyes sharp as he pointed at the insect. Hainan Island is home to many poisonous insects that I'm unfamiliar with. They can be quite dangerous, so I acted instinctively and swatted it. Tangshan held up the crushed bug in his hand. Look here, this thing is huge. Xiaolong stared at the insect in his palm, stunned for a moment. Then suddenly, he spoke. This is, he trailed off, thinking to himself, wait a minute, why is this bug here? It was as if he'd just realized something monumental. Xiaolong asked, Senior, the patients, though their symptoms differ, they all seem to share one crucial abnormality, don't they? Tangshan's eyes widened. That's correct. The true cause of this vile plague spreading through the village. Xiaolong pointed directly at the bug in Tangshan's hand. Is this insect right here? Tangshan was shocked. What? You can't be serious. This bug belongs to the assassin bug family. They're known for feeding on the blood near the eyes or lips of sleeping people. They're incredibly agile, even faster than mosquitoes. Because of this, they have other names, like the vampire bug or the kissing bug. Xiaolong took a cloth and wiped away the blood from the insect. The bug itself isn't venomous, he explained, but its stomach is teeming with harmful parasites. When it bites someone, he continued, the victim becomes infected through its waste. The disease it transmits is Trypanosoma cruzi, also known as Chagas disease. This illness is one of the 7th leading causes of death for humans globally. Xiaolong then turned to the village chief. Sir, have the dogs in the village also shown signs of labored breathing, or symptoms similar to the villagers? The chief gasped in alarm. Yes, they have. Could it really be this bug? Xiaolong sighed. It's possible, but we can't be certain yet. The old man asked desperately, if that's the case, can my granddaughter be saved? Xiaolong replied, with the right medicine, there's a chance. But, just then, Tangshan let out a soft, confident laugh. He turned to his subordinate, 𝒏𝒔𝒐𝒏. What do you think of my eye for talent? 𝒏𝒔𝒐𝒏 beamed. Indeed, Patriarch. I now truly see the young master's value. Xiaolong looked between them, completely confused by their exchange. Tangshan then declared, Young hero, join our Sichuan Tang clan. Xiaolong was dumbfounded. Excuse me? Tangshan said confidently. My meaning is clear. I am inviting you to become a member of our Sichuan Tang clan. The boy was utterly lost, muttering, "But why?" Tang Shan began to explain. There is a dark art known as gu. These are cursed insects, also called voodoo worms or poisonous vermin. They are cultivated by wicked people in the Central Plains. Tang Shan continued, his voice grim. These villains force people to ingest the gu, inflicting periodic bouts of agony, or using them to control their victims like puppets. Xiaolong was horrified. That's terrifying. To control people like that? Tang Shan nodded gravely. The power is real, and countless people in the martial world have lost their lives to this vile art. There are tales of people who murdered their own children before taking their own lives, he explained, or betrayed their families to become slaves for these evil masters. Hearing this, the village chief standing nearby cried out in despair. Oh heavens, my poor Ma Zhen, Tang Shan continued. For the longest time, the great heroes of the martial world have struggled to create an antidote for this monstrous curse, a medicine that could expel it from the body, or even dissolve it completely. Xiaolong was in disbelief. Truly? That seems unimaginable. Suddenly, Tang Shan pulled something from his robes. If the martial world truly possesses such a legendary antidote, he declared loudly, where do you think it would be made? He proudly revealed a single, round pill from our Sichuan Tang clan. Of course, if this medicine can dissolve a tumor the size of a fist inside the body, what chance do those minuscule parasites stand? Tang Shan presented the large, shimmering pill, the goo-dissolving pill. Just a small piece is all it will take. Xiaolong's eyes widened in admiration. Goo-dissolving pill, he murmured. What an incredible name for a parasite-killing medicine. He then looked at the teary-eyed village chief. So please, sir, don't worry anymore, Tang Shan declared. Your granddaughter can be saved. And as a result, starting with the chief's granddaughter, the villagers slowly began to recover their health. The chief embraced the little girl, overwhelmed with joy. Oh, Ma Zhen, we are so fortunate. The villagers' warm gratitude was the ultimate reward for their efforts. Looking at all the cheerful faces, it seemed, the tales about the optimistic nature of the new people were true. Tang Shan clapped Xiaolong on the shoulder. If it weren't for this young hero discovering the cause, he announced, their savior would not have been me, but him. In unison, the young men of the village shouted, Thank you, young hero, thank you so much. Xiaolong blushed, replying shyly, Oh, it was nothing. The villagers erupted in cheers, hailing the young hero as their savior. Although the Tang clan's medicine cured them, Elder Tang Shan gave me all the credit. Seeing him beaming with joy, as if the achievement were his own, was truly moving. The young men of the village swarmed around, tossing Xiaolong into the air in celebration. A short while later, the village chief approached Tang Shan, asking about the matter they'd discussed at the gate. What was on his mind? The chief explained that people were searching for a village where everyone had gone missing. Tang Shan confirmed it was true. Driven by a desire to repay our kindness, the chief spoke of a strange tale he'd heard. The crowd fell silent, listening intently to the old man's story. He said a girl who had married into their village came from another land. In her parents' hometown, a few years back, a bizarre phenomenon began. The villagers started vanishing one by one. Hearing this, Tang Shan's eyes widened. He glanced around and muttered, A clue, he immediately asked. Where is this village? The chief replied. To the west, there is a small village. When they arrived, they were met with utter desolation. Tang Shan covered his nose and said, There are corpses. One of his retainers confirmed. It seems this is the place. Clan head. He suddenly cried out, What is this? Piles of bodies were stacked high, not just human remains, but animal carcasses too. Be careful, Tang Shan warned. Even the corpses are venomous. The decay is releasing a deadly poison. A bearded man shouted, a chill running down his spine. Don't let the young hero see this horrific scene. But Xiaolong replied, I've already seen everything. Suddenly, he noticed something. What's that over there? He saw razor-sharp talons and the beak of a strange bird, devouring the head of a severed snake. He raised a stone in his hand. I won't let that thing desecrate the dead. With all his might, he hurled the rock towards it, roaring, Get out of here. Wait, Tang Shan cried out, but it was too late. The stone whizzed past, startling the bird. It slammed its talons into the ground, its eyes blazing with murderous intent, poised to attack. Stop! Something is wrong. The bird spread its wings and soared into the sky, unleashing a wave of deadly aura. Xiaolong watched in absolute horror as the black mist swept over the bones, causing them to melt away. No way, it's dissolving them, he stammered. Instantly, a hand clamped over his mouth. Tang Shan roared, Everyone, Get down. That is a gloomwing. They immediately dropped to the ground, forming a circle. Tangshan explained, when a gloomwing spreads its wings, it can bring death to all living things. Its beak shines like bronze and is as sharp as a spear, its body covered in deep purple feathers. His two retainers listened with grim faces. Tangshan continued, when enraged, its wings release a poison that infects and kills everything around it. That is the creature known as the Gloomwing. Xiaolong said. Could it be? He shouted with excitement. Is that one of the 10 great poisonous assassins? Tangshan nodded. Xiaolong's eyes lit up, filled with exhilaration. That's right. It is the one that stands at the very top, hailed as the sovereign of all venomous creatures, the Gloomwing Emperor. The Emperor of the 10 great assassins, he whispered. This is unbelievable. The poisonous insects and snakes back on Earth are like cute pets compared to this. Xiaolong couldn't contain his joy as he gazed upon the Gloomwing. It's a literal flying bioweapon. It must have been drawn here by the swarms of venomous snakes. The other three whispered that the Gloomwing only eats the heads of the most potent vipers. He asked worriedly, is this some kind of omen? The elder replied, absolutely. Many go their entire lives without ever seeing a Gloomwing. This creature is so rare, it's said to appear only once every 100 years. Xiaolong was mesmerized. Tangshan then asked, so, young hero, are you thinking of capturing it? The crowd gasped in shock. He laughed. You want to try taming it, don't you, young hero? He replied, I do. But given its toxicity, Tangshan just smiled knowingly. Then he said suddenly, kid, you seem very interested in the 10 great poisonous assassins. If so, there might be a way. Xiaolong was stunned. Is there really a way? Tangshan affirmed. If you successfully master the secret poison arts of the Tang clan, your body will become immune to all venoms. You could even withstand the Gloomwing's toxin. He explained that in this world, only the martial arts of their Tang clan could counter this poison. He pointed to his face and said, but the problem is, our Tang clan does not teach its secret arts to outsiders. He emphasized, as much as I want to help you, young hero, as the clan head, I cannot break our family's laws. Xiaolong's eyes blazed with determination. If I become a member of the Tang clan, will I be able to learn it? And, if I reach the state of 100 poisons immunity, can I truly resist the Gloomwing's venom? Tangshan confidently replied, of course. If the young hero is resolved, I will begin teaching you personally, right now. A proper initiation will be arranged. Though the others looked on with doubt, only Xiaolong believed him. The old man smiled, slyly. But, if the young hero hesitates for too long, I might have to reconsider this decision, won't I? Xiaolong felt a rush of excitement, his face flushing. He declared, I agree to become a member of the Tang clan. I ask for your guidance, clan head. Tangshan laughed heartily. Truly? Excellent. He clapped the boy's shoulder and said, from now on, you are a part of the Tang clan. At the lair of the bloodhand Asura, Zhang Yunxiang, footprints were found beside a pool of poison. Suddenly, a voice called out, clan head. The bearded man presented a book. It was in the cave. Tangshan flipped through the pages and confirmed, this script, written in blood. This is the secret manual of the bloodhand poison ancestor. Written in blood? Xiaolong marveled. The elder closed the book. We're heading back, the boy asked. Are you planning to go to Sichuan? Tangshan replied, we need to retrieve the inner core of the azure centipede and the secret manual. Remembering the poisonous creatures he was raising, Xiaolong asked, can we stop by the Taoist shrine for a moment? I want to release a few of my friends. Of course, the elder replied. I will also prepare your travel gear. Tangshan turned back and said, all right then, let's depart. As Xiaolong glanced behind him, he suddenly noticed something. He pointed to the cave and said, there's something strange over there. The bearded man asked, what do you mean? Everyone crouched down to look at what one of them was pointing at. They all gasped. This is a feather from the Gloomwing. All eyes were fixed on the plume, which glowed with a faint purple light. Tangshan put on a glove and picked the feather up to inspect it. He opened a box to store it and said, consider this a gift to celebrate you becoming part of the Tang clan. You seem to really like it. Xiaolong was ecstatic. Thank you, senior. No. Clan head. Tangshan turned back with a smile and said, everything is good, but I'm not too fond of that title. He continued, perhaps after the bonding ceremony, we can change how we address each other. Xiaolong was surprised, muttering, a bonding ceremony? Like an initiation ritual? At that same moment, At the Tang clan estate in Sichuan, Tang Jun was gravely injured. Clan members rushed to support him. One reported, "To the Grand Elder, Tang Buxing has been—" He had finally arrived, screaming as he entered, "Hurry, what is Yiner's condition?" A subordinate reported, She's still clinging to life." The old man commanded, "Take me to her." Now, the door flew open. Tang Gun appeared, calling out, "Yiner!" Those by the bed rose in unison. "Grandmaster!" The lady of the house cried out in desperation. "Father!" The Grandmaster replied, "Daughter-in-law, I've brought the cure." Tang Gun revealed a shimmering pill. "This is the inner core of the azure-striped centipede." She covered her mouth, trying to suppress her overwhelming emotion. You actually succeeded." The family gathered around, their gazes fixed on the Grand Master as he prepared the medicine. Yiner's face was pale, her breaths shallow. Tang Gun looked upon her with sorrow, whispering her name. He held the core aloft. "We were almost too late. Thankfully, I made it back in time." The madam urged him, "Father, please, give it to her." Gently, he placed the potent core into Yiner's mouth. A brilliant azure energy erupted from her body. Tang Gun immediately checked her pulse, then began channeling his own immense inner power. Her mother watched, her heart pounding as she prayed, "Yiner, please wake up." Meanwhile, an exhausted Xiaolong sat down, lost in thought. "I heard the Central Plains were vast, but I never imagined a land this immense." After leaving Hainan by ship, he passed through Hangzhou and Nam Nin, a grueling journey of a month and a half that finally led him to Sichuan. Before the gates of the Tang clan, his guide announced, "This is the Sichuan Tang clan." "Truly?" Xiaolong was stunned. Before him stood the majestic estate of the legendary clan. The guide explained, "This entire mountain belongs to the Tang clan, that's why. It's known as Tang Clan Mountain." Xiaolong couldn't believe his eyes. Suddenly, scores of clan members rushed out, shouting, "The family head has returned! Welcome back, sir." The sight left him flabbergasted. He muttered, "Are all these people members of the Sichuan Tang clan? There's so many." From behind the crowd, a girl in a vibrant red dress appeared. The sound of her footsteps echoed as she ran. Tang San was startled to hear someone call out, "Father." It was his beloved daughter, Yiner. She was awake and running towards him. She threw herself into his arms, sobbing uncontrollably. Tang San was overjoyed. "Yiner, you're really all right." She hugged him tightly and said, "Father, I'm so sorry." "Are you hurt, father?" Xiaolong watched her, completely captivated. He whispered to himself, "This is the first time I've ever seen someone radiate such a brilliant beauty." Her father turned to him. "There's someone I want you to meet." Tang San announced, "Xiaolong, this is my daughter, Tang Yiner." Xiaolong froze on the spot. The clan head continued, "I still remember what you said to me. The scent of grass." Hearing this, Yiner looked confused. "Grass?" Tang San playfully pinched her cheek and said, "A weed, of course," making Yiner gasp, her face blushing crimson. They stared at each other in a silent, awkward moment. Xiaolong recalled the clan head's earlier words, "My daughter, one of the 3 great treasures of the Central Plains." He quickly refuted, "No, not a weed." He was mortified. This was Tang Yiner, the poison blossom, the only daughter of the Tang clan. But since she was a child, Yiner had carried a deep sorrow that few could ever understand. In a conversation between 2 elders, one claimed her talent was yet unproven, while the other praised only her appearance, dismissing her. "She isn't even one of the 3 great beauties of the martial world." Hiding behind a tree, Yiner had to silently endure their cutting remarks. The bearded man waved his fan. "We just need to find her a suitable husband for an alliance." The other replied, "I told the family head to take more concubines. Why does he refuse?" Their bitter words pierced Yiner's heart. She could only whisper, "It's not their fault. Mother and father did nothing wrong." She resolved then and there to prove her true worth to the clan's elders. She would do it by perfecting her martial arts. Even though she wasn't a man, she could still be a great asset to the clan. But her impatience led her to a devastating mistake, a demonic qi deviation that ultimately cast her into a deep coma. Now, awakened by the cure and Tang Gun's help, she found herself surrounded by her worried family. Her mother cried with joy, "You survived, Yiner." But Yiner's tears were of despair. "Mother, what am I going to do?" She sobbed, "I'm so sorry. Mother." Her heart sank. It was all over. Her dream of becoming useful to the clan was shattered. Yiner looked at Tang Gun and said, "I've lost all of my inner energy." Tang Gun took her hand and spoke gently, "Silly girl, are you feeling guilty for causing the family so much trouble?" He smiled. "You've finally obtained what you always yearned for. Stop your crying and rejoice. Yinner was completely baffled. What? The 100 poisons? Lifting her hand, she saw a faint azure aura radiating from her palm, stunning her. Yinner turned to her grandfather. Grandfather. What is this? He answered cheerfully. Yinner, I have something to tell you. Not only did we save your life, but we helped you achieve the heavenly poison body, a state that transcends even the 100 poisons. Yinner blinked. A. Weed? Her innocent question made everyone around them burst into laughter, while Xiaolong mumbled in embarrassment. But Tang San, standing beside them, shot a smug grin at the flustered Xiaolong. Asterisk. Don't look so pleased with yourself. Asterisk, Xiaolong thought. He forced a smile. Family head, you're quite the joker. It is an honor to meet you, young miss. He continued. I heard you were ill. I'm truly glad to see you've recovered. Yinner smiled brightly. Indeed, and it is a great pleasure to finally meet you. She then introduced herself with a flourish. I am the Poison Blossom, Tang Yinner. Thank you for the grace of saving my life, young master. The Poison Blossom will never forget this debt. Her introduction left Xiaolong completely mesmerized. Asterisk. So beautiful. Asterisk. But he was jolted from his stupor by a voice in his head. Asterisk. What? Asterisk. It was Tang San, using telepathy. Asterisk. She may be a weed, but she's a beautiful one, don't you think? Like a spider lily. Asterisk. Asterisk. Do you want to try picking her? Asterisk. The mental message made Xiaolong's face turn beet red. The scene changes to a bathhouse, where Xiaolong is soaking, trying to relax in the hot water as his centipedes sleep nearby. This is going to be the death of me, he sighed. He noticed one of the small centipedes had woken up. You guys normally cling to me all day, but this hot water isn't good for you. Want to get in for a bit? As if they understood his words, they all scurried into the tub. Seeing this cute display, Xiaolong thought, asterisk, how strange, asterisk, asterisk. It's almost like they can understand what I'm saying. Asterisk, he chuckled. You know, staring at a naked body like this could make a person feel shy. Suddenly, they all panicked and dove underwater, hiding themselves from view. He laughed again, mumbling, You guys are ridiculous. Xiaolong sighed, recalling Old Man Gu's words about the centipedes. These creatures were considered spirit beasts. He suddenly remembered Tang San's words. Asterisk. A beautiful spider lily. Do you want to try picking her? Asterisk. His heart wouldn't calm down. He decided he had to leave this place immediately. Inside the Tang clan's main hall, everyone was seated for a discussion. Tang San lifted his teacup and said, So, we shall proceed with the arrangements. Tang Gun shook his head. A young hero. With such incredible talent? He pondered. Yes, Tang San replied. It was a fortunate encounter for us, but this fortune was entirely thanks to the young master. His knowledge of venomous creatures is truly phenomenal. Not only did he slay the bandit cloud vulture, but he also encountered a legendary spirit beast like the sunken bird. At this revelation, the madam and Yinner both wore expressions of pure shock. Tang San continued, I also heard that the young master hatched the azure-striped centipede eggs with his own hands. Tang Gun chuckled. I can't believe we nearly overlooked such a treasure. Tang San nodded. Indeed, father. Then he turned and called out, Yinner? She jumped, not understanding. Tang San asked, I want to accept the young master. My son-in-law? What do you think? Yunha questioned. Are you saying you want that hero to be my husband? She cried out. If he were my husband, then. But she fell silent, her gaze dropping to the floor. She waited for an answer, her own thoughts racing. I've already surpassed the 100 poisons and entered the realm of the heavenly poison body. I want to prove that I can be of even greater use to the clan. As a member of the Tong family, she finally said, I understand your intentions. Yunha slammed her hand on the table, her voice booming. But, tears began to well in her eyes. Is that hero truly worthy of me? She demanded. I will have to verify that for myself. With that, she stormed out of the room, leaving everyone behind in a state of shock. Tang San rose to his feet, a dark premonition sweeping over him. Be careful, young hero. He watched his daughter's figure disappear, muttering, The spider lily, beautiful, but it also bears the sharpest thorns. I can now aim for the heavenly poison body, she thought. If I stop now, the clan elders will never acknowledge me. I will verify everything myself. I'll carefully examine every aspect of his character. Meanwhile, after finishing his bath, Xiaolong sat outside enjoying the breeze. What was all that about? He wondered aloud. With a gloomy look on his face, he sighed. I think I left a terrible impression on that young lady from the great clan. Xiaolong gently stroked the azure-banded centipede on his chest and asked, "What am I supposed to do now?" Suddenly, a voice called from behind, "Young hero." It was Yunha, causing him to jump in surprise. She was panting, having run all the way there. "Huh? Lady Yunha?" Xiaolong asked. "My apologies for startling you," she replied. "I was in a bit of a rush." Seeing Xiaolong's utterly bewildered expression, Yunha asked, "Could I borrow your hand for a moment?" He immediately extended his hand. "Yes, of course, my lady." But then he hesitated, his face turning bright red. About this." He grew even more flustered. "I don't know what you have in mind, my lady, but perhaps it would be better to wait until we're closer. Right?" He continued to stumble over his words. "I mean, something like this requires a deep and intimate understanding." "What do you mean?" Unha asked, confused. Then, as realization dawned, her own face flushed crimson. "No, it's not like that," she shouted. "What on earth are you thinking?" Xiaolong sighed, muttering, "I guess not." The romantic glow of the sunset did nothing to ease the tension between them. Unha sighed. "It's not what you think. I just wanted to check your pulse," she explained. "I suppose asking for your hand so suddenly caused a misunderstanding." Xiaolong laughed nervously. "Oh, so that's it. My mistake." Unha sat down. "First, I want to apologize for my sudden appearance and my improper behavior." She looked at Xiaolong, noticing he was still incredibly young, but possessed a mature mind. Because of that, she decided to explain the current situation. "Ah, all right," Xiaolong stammered. After listening to Unha's explanation, Xiaolong felt like he was living through a classic historical drama. She was the sole heir of her family's main line, constantly fighting off the treacherous schemes of the branch families. To ensure the clan's survival, the elders had decided to recruit an outstanding son-in-law. Xiaolong nodded to himself, muttering, "And they're even considering my position in the family if I join." Unha continued, "That's why I must apologize in advance. But there is something I need to confirm with you." She scratched her head, adding, "Even if things don't go the way I want, I have no intention of mistreating you. You are our benefactor. We will treat you as an honored guest," she added. "Or, how about becoming sworn siblings?" Surprised by her offer, Xiaolong smiled and held out his hand. "I understand your meaning perfectly," he said. "Please, confirm whatever you need to." Unha was silent for a moment before checking his pulse. "All right, then let us begin." Suddenly, a strange aura erupted from around her, startling Xiaolong. Unha explained, "The martial arts of the Tang clan cannot be mastered by just anyone. Only a select few can withstand the poisons and grasp our family's ultimate techniques. On the other hand," she continued, "there are those who are completely unable to do so." Yunha explained their system's highest tiers: the heavenly poison, the 100 poisons, the 10 poisons, and the 5 poisons. The Tang clan's poison arts require the user to slowly adapt to various toxins, as their internal energy increases. Only by accepting it all can one achieve true understanding. After checking his pulse, Unha said, "Fortunately, your body does have the ability to learn our poison arts." But then she continued, "However, for an outsider of the Tang clan to possess a 10-poison body is already impressive." But Xiaolong was stunned into silence by this information. Unha stood up and continued, "In terms of overall strength, you can only be considered a first-class martial artist. That is the highest level a normal person, born without innate talent, can ever achieve." She bowed deeply. "My apologies, but I must be going." Xiaolong stood up and replied, "All right, take care." His mind was reeling. "Am I really just a 10-poison body?" He suddenly cried out. Then, "Does this mean I can't capture the abyssal sable? This is a truly serious problem." Later, after emerging from her bath, Unha wrapped a cloth around her body and let out a sigh. She glanced at her own skin, wondering, why is it that ever since I absorbed the azure-banded centipede's inner core, my body has been emitting this strange fragrance? I've even been bathing several times a day. After getting dressed, Yunha mused, could this be a punishment for speaking so disrespectfully to our benefactor? The scene changes to Xiaolong's bedroom. He is sound asleep, apparently dreaming of something. Suddenly, he finds himself in a place filled with cherry blossom trees. From a distance, he can hear crying. "I am so grateful for your golden heart, young miss. Thank you, my great benefactor." Xiaolong mumbled, "Am I dreaming?" A girl's voice answered, "No, you are not. This may feel like a dream, but it is not." The azure-banded centipede knelt on the ground, saying, "I am only borrowing the form of the young woman who received my inner core, to avoid frightening you. I am the mother of these children. The azure-banded centipede. Huh? The azure-banded centipede? Xiaolong questioned. At his feet were adorable baby centipedes. Xiaolong was startled. You guys scared me. When did you all get here? He looked at her and asked, So, you're their mother? Are they all girls? He knelt down on one knee. But, how did you all enter my dream? She hesitated. Well, the azure-banded centipede's face contorted with rage. I was brutally murdered, leaving my children behind. This grudge has reached the heavens, and my soul now lingers. Within my inner core, she said, her voice filled with fury. When I appeared in the body of the young woman who absorbed my core, a chance for revenge finally arrived. And so, I have appeared. In your dream. The azure-banded centipede spoke with gratitude. It is thanks to you that I can lead these children, my benefactor. After listening to what she said, Xiaolong replied, I understand now. He thought to himself. In the end, I was the one who revealed her location to others. With a worried expression, Xiaolong said, I didn't mean for that to happen, but, no matter what, I am connected to the death of the azure-banded centipede. The spirit looked at him with an expression of pity. Benefactor, she began, if it's not too much trouble, could you grant me a single wish? Xiaolong, cradling one of the sleeping insect children, answered without hesitation. Of course, I will grant any wish you have. Stroking her child's head, she made her request. Can you care for my children until they mature? Xiaolong was confused. But don't they become independent after molting twice from their mother's body? The azure-striped centipede explained. That is true. For lesser creatures, but we are different. She caressed her children. Before my kind molts for the second time, they depend entirely on the aura from their mother's nidon. After that, they grow by absorbing the vital energy of other living things. Xiaolong's eyes widened. But Lady Yinner has already absorbed your nidon. Does that mean they need to be near her? Her tone turned serious. You must understand our situation, benefactor. The azure-striped centipede then asked. Did I not mention the curse I placed upon that girl? A sense of dread washed over him. You did, she continued. Because of my nidon, that girl's body now emits a foul stench. Xiaolong was stunned. A foul stench? With a wicked glint in her eyes, the centipede queen declared, I will not allow any man to get close to that girl. She will never bear a child, Xiaolong repeated in shock. My goodness. If you wish to break this curse, she added, let my children absorb the aura from the nidon. Perhaps you could use this chance to conquer her heart. Xiaolong rested his chin on his hand, thought for a moment, and then smiled. I don't think that's a very good idea. I refuse to take advantage of Lady Yinner's predicament. The azure-striped centipede acknowledged his honor. You truly are a respectable man. But then she asked seriously, how will you overcome this challenge then? It seems that girl is looking for a man of immense power, she also noted, and I cannot retrieve the core of the 10 great poisons for you, as it has already been absorbed into her body. Xiaolong muttered, the 10 great poisons. Suddenly, his face lit up. I have an idea. Can you trust me? She looked puzzled. What are you talking about? Xiaolong gently petted one of the insect children. Just leave this to me. I believe it will work. The next day, after Xiaolong explained everything, Yinner was astonished. So, the scent from my body is because of the azure-striped centipede's nidon? He arrived carrying her children. That's right, he confirmed. If you let these centipedes stay near you for a few days to absorb the aura from the nidon, the scent will vanish on its own. She blushed, looking away. I feel a little awkward asking this, but Yinner finally met his gaze. You're telling me all of this without asking for anything in return. Shouldn't you demand some form of compensation? Xiaolong just smiled. I couldn't be so heartless as to take advantage of someone's misfortune. I don't want to be that kind of person. A man without shame. His answer surprised her. She lowered her head in silence for a moment, then finally came to a decision. All right, if that's the case, I cannot continue to accept your kindness without offering anything in return. Yinner's expression turned serious. I will reconsider my father's words, Brother Xiaolong. I realize now that there are things more important than mere talent or martial arts. Xiaolong scratched his head, embarrassed. Well, actually, I was thinking about something. Thinking about what? She asked. He chuckled nervously. You said that I possess the 10 poisons physique, and that I can absorb 10 types of poisons, right? Yinner sighed, confirming. That's correct. Xiaolong looked at the young insects. So, if I can absorb 10 poisons, does that mean I can take in the venom of the 10 great poisons of the Central Plains? Yinner's interest was piqued. The 10 venoms. From the 10 great poisons? A deep blush crept onto her cheeks as she mumbled to herself. So, he wants to become the strongest under the heavens? It was unheard of. For Tang Yinner, one of the 3 flowers, of Linwu. This was the first time a man had expressed such a bold ambition to her. The sky above was overcast, yet rays of sunlight still managed to pierce through the thick clouds. They landed on the ornate rooftops. Outside, the two sat on the steps, deep in discussion. Hua Yin looked perplexed. She stared at Xiao Long and questioned him. "Young master, do you have any idea what you're saying?" He met her gaze in silence for a moment, then scratched his head and let out a big, clueless laugh. "I have no idea." She was growing impatient with this boy. Straightening her posture, Hua Yin crossed her arms and confided, "This path you speak of, it is filled with hardship and trials. It could take 10 years, 20 years, or even an entire lifetime to pursue." Xiao Long, sitting beside her with a naive look, suddenly hesitated, wondering to himself, "Is it really that serious?" She covered her face with her hands, letting out a soft, embarrassed huff. "All right, young master Xiao Long, I heard you're only 15 years old. In 3 years, when you come of age, it will be time for the wedding ceremony." With an innocent expression, Xiao Long listened as Hua Yin spoke of the future, her voice tinged with the shyness of a young maiden. "In the next 3 years, if you succeed in taming one of the 10 great poisonous creatures, perhaps you will earn everyone's absolute trust. Therefore, if everything goes smoothly, the chances of achieving your goal are very high." She blushed, fidgeting as her fingers tapped against each other. "And about the wedding, what I mean is..." Suddenly, Hua Yin shot to her feet and shouted, "Anyway, I will always support you." Her sudden outburst made Xiao Long flinch to the side. After speaking, she didn't turn back. Instead, she rushed off, leaving only a single sentence behind. "All right, I'm leaving." Xiao Long, still bewildered, could only manage a stunned, "Huh?" before quickly calling out to her retreating figure, "Lady Hua Yin." She turned back, startled. "Young master, is there something else you need to say?" Xiao Long gave an innocent smile and patted the spot next to him. His entire being seemed to radiate a holy light as he said, "It's about the treatment. You just need to stay for 1 more hour. Please, milady, try to stay before you go." His words made Hua Yin freeze, as if her very soul was cracking into pieces. She let out a helpless scream at his utter cluelessness. Her body went rigid. Clenching her fists, she slowly walked back to her spot, her face burning crimson with shame. Meanwhile, Xiao Long thought she was afraid of the small insects on him. He quickly tried to reassure her. "Don't worry, they absolutely will not bite you." With that, he turned to the insects in his hand and called out, "Come on, my little darlings." They chirped in response. Xiao Long translated their words, startling Hua Yin, who was sitting next to him. "You won't listen to your father and want to talk to your mother instead? There's much more joy in that." Hua Yin repeated the important keywords. "Father? Mother?" Hearing this, Xiao Long panicked, his vehement denial echoing loudly. "No, it's not like that." Meanwhile, in the study, 3 parents sat facing each other with serious expressions. "It seems the young master's talent has not yet conquered our daughter's heart," Tang Jun asked in a stern voice. "Madam Tang, did you see them this morning?" It seemed like something suspicious was going on between them. Hearing this, the old master fell into deep thought, stroking his silver beard, and spoke softly. "All right." Tang Shan was silent for a long moment. Tang Jun cleared his throat. "Forcing this marriage, I fear it is not proper. It would be best to let them." As their feelings blossomed naturally, an idea sparked in Lady Tang's mind. She turned to her husband. "Why not let Hoa An guide the young hero's martial arts training? If they meet often, perhaps something more will bloom." Lord Tang replied, "That is an excellent notion." Hearing this, the Tang clan head nodded. "Then I will ask Master Yi if there's a way to bestow a favor and cleanse the Tiandong. If we can create this opportunity, we might just bridge the gap between them." Tang San added with concern, "But what if Hoa An has no interest in this? Father, I fear your hopes are too high." The old man crossed his arms, huffing softly with his eyes closed. "We can at least try." With a sigh, he reluctantly agreed. "I suppose we must." Just then, a familiar silhouette appeared at the door. "Father, your daughter Hoa An has come to pay her respects." Her loud call from outside startled the 3 men in the room, who muttered in unison, "Hoa An, why is she here at this hour?" Tang Sun regained his composure and called out, "Come in." Without hesitation, she pushed the door open. Seeing the 3 patriarchs looking so serious, She felt a wave of anxiety, swallowing hard. Hoa-an leaned back, stammering, "Oh, everyone is here together." The three men stared back, confused by her arrival. She straightened up, clasping her hands respectfully. "I have come because there is a matter I wish to discuss." "A matter to discuss?" Tang-sun asked, intrigued. Thinking about what she was about to say, she felt a deep sense of embarrassment. Her face flushed crimson, and her throat went dry, causing her to stutter. I will do as father has instructed." She clenched her fists, mustering all her courage to get the words out. Tang-sun could only let out a stunned, "Oh." His face frozen, unable to process it. A moment later, he asked hesitantly, What I instructed? What do you mean?" Lady Tang excitedly pulled her daughter closer, eager to hear more. But Hoa-an's words were still caught in her throat. "It's about..." Frustrated with the delay, her mother jumped in. "Could it be that the young hero, Xiao Long, has finally captured your heart?" Hoa and froze, her face shifting colors like a chameleon. Just as the blush had started to fade, it returned with a fiery intensity, much to her parents' delight. "But this is so sudden. You clearly said you weren't interested before." Her father's bluntness left Hoa and speechless. She nervously tapped her index fingers together, a clear sign of her inner turmoil. After a long pause, she finally spoke. "It's because of young hero Xiao Long. He made a promise. He vowed to become the number one under the heavens. He swore an oath." Her words electrified her parents, who asked in unison, "What, number one under the heavens?" Her father stroked his short beard, his interest piqued. "Tell us more about this." Fulfilling her father's wish, Hoa-an explained honestly, "What I mean is, although my own innate talent is not remarkable, for my sake, the young hero swore an oath to master all 10 types of legendary poisons. That is the promise he made to me." The clan head burst out laughing at her strangely. Proud declaration. "What? 10 poisons? That boy truly doesn't know the height of the heavens or the depth of the earth." Her mother chimed in teasingly, "My goodness, does such a person even exist in this world?" Hoa-an's face burned like a steamed bun. However, a second later, she regained her composure and clarified, "Although I have agreed in my heart, we must wait until young hero Xiao Long has matured and can successfully master even one of the 10 poisons. Only then will the marriage be approved. Do you all understand my meaning?" She glanced at the three patriarchs, awaiting their judgment. They all agreed, cheerfully. "Why, if she is a daughter of my clan, that's the least he can do." Lady Tang also added her support. But men can be a bit slow on the uptake, can't they?" Hearing her mother's words, Hoa-an understood and asked, "Should I explain it to him again?" Her mother stroked her daughter's hair and gently advised, "The young hero truly didn't realize that his proposal was already accepted, did he? Why wouldn't he try just a little harder for my daughter's sake?" Lord Tang added cheerfully, "For now, let's treat him as our son-in-law. We'll have to pretend we don't know about this arrangement. If he strives this hard, it won't be long before he's truly a part of our family." At this, they all looked incredibly pleased. Elsewhere, Xiao Long's hand was being held tightly as a voice exclaimed with excitement, "Truly admirable, benefactor. Haven't you completely conquered that young lady's heart?" The praise made him blush, and he scratched his head with an awkward laugh. Well, it was just a matter of courage and perseverance. The face smiling at him looked identical to Hoa-an, except for a green, diamond-shaped gem on its forehead. After a moment of silence, the spirit spoke. "Benefactor, today will likely be our last meeting. My grudge has been resolved, and my soul will soon pass on." Holding the three small, dancing spirits beside him, Xiao Long replied, "Yes, I understand." Standing still as the wind blew through its hair, the spirit asked, "Is there anything I can do for you? If it is within my power, we will do anything you ask." He placed a hand to his chin, pretending to think. "In that case, if you don't mind, could you let me gaze upon you for a moment?" With a snap of his fingers, Xiao Long made his request. The spirit blushed and clutched her robes, thinking to herself, as expected, Benefactor is a true man after all. But she hesitated before agreeing. "Very well, then," without another thought, she began pulling down her sash, murmuring, "It seems Benefactor has a weakness for beauty." Seeing this, his face went pale, and he tried to stop her in a panic. "Wait, do you really have to take it off?" Now it was the spirit's turn to be confused, wondering frantically, "Huh?" The three child spirits automatically covered their eyes upon hearing the exchange. "I won't take it off then, if that makes you more comfortable," Xiao Long shouted in protest. "No, That's not what I meant. I just wanted to see your true form as the green-banded Wugong. Fearing further misunderstanding, he made his request crystal clear, much to the spirit's surprise. It finally understood his meaning and hesitated, saying, "If that is what you wish." A second later, the scene transformed. His excited shout echoed through the area. Her body underwent a spectacular metamorphosis. From a beautiful young woman, she transformed into a gigantic, magnificent centipede, yet she still used her alluring voice. "Will this form be to your liking, benefactor?" Xiaolong let out a heavy breath, his eyes gleaming with pure excitement. "Incredible. It's absolutely massive. Can I touch it for just a moment?" he asked while rubbing his hands together. Even the Wugong was rendered speechless. "You're already touching it, you know." Now that he had his hands on it, Xiaolong's demands grew. "Can I hold a piece? Wow. How can the joints support this much weight?" "It's true. The front legs really do glow when it walks, don't they?" Hearing this, the Wugong awkwardly wiggled its short front legs, letting out a shy hum. "The front legs?" Seeing the adorable gesture, he grew even more excited. "Can I touch the legs?" And with that question, the Wugong was speechless for a second time. "You are already touching them." Now, in his element, Xiaolong fired off questions relentlessly. How potent is its venom? And what about the eyes? Does it see with them? Or does it bodas? Still rely on its antennae to sense things? The three child spirits kept their eyes covered, not out of modesty, but because they couldn't bear to watch this spectacle. The Wugong could only offer a brief, of course, before letting out a startled shriek. Staring intently at the creature's sharp claws, he clasped his hands and asked, "In that case, let me touch the poison fang. Just once." This request made the Wugong freeze. "Huh?" it warned him. "That might be a little dangerous." Hearing this, Xiaolong immediately switched to a cute, pleading tone to make his attack. "You promised you would grant any request." But the Centipede King shook his head, flustered. "Benefactor, what are you saying?" he muttered to himself. "Are my daughters truly safe?" His hand reached for his face, a greedy look appearing. "Ah, this shimmering chitin shell," he mused. The whole situation was just too bizarre. Tang Tiashan clasped his hands, his face softening. "That's right, young hero. No, Xiaolong, I've heard everything from Huayin. From now on, you are my son." Hearing that deep, powerful voice, he shot a shocked glance at Huayin. She had heard her father's words too, and a gentle smile graced her delicate features. Xiaolong knew she wouldn't help him. Flustered, he tried to explain, "But the 3-year trial." Before he could finish his sentence, Tang Tiashan cut him off. "There was no room to refuse. The wedding will be held when you come of age. That is only natural." Hearing this, a helpless Xiaolong waved his hands. "No, that's not what I meant." Mrs. Tang, seated beside them, her youthful skin glowing, chimed in with a wide smile. "Oh my dear son-in-law. Xiaolong, a second welcome to you. I am your mother-in-law." Even the Tang clan patriarch joined in the excitement, his white hair shining as his eyes lit up. He laughed heartily. Now that Huayin has found her destined one, from now on, only good fortune awaits our Tang clan. Seeing the entire family so supportive of their marriage, Xiaolong was utterly speechless. He glanced at Huayin, softly calling her name. "Yinner?" She didn't reply, but on her small face, a smile bloomed. He thought he must have imagined it, but when he looked closer, her expression had returned to its usual cold indifference. This left him stunned. Asterisk. What is going on? Asterisk, he wondered. Asterisk. She was the one who set the conditions for our marriage. So why is she acting like it's a done deal? Asterisk. Not understanding the situation, he made a silent decision. For now, he would just go along with her wishes. With that thought, Xiaolong composed himself, scratching his head with an awkward laugh. "Well then, I'll be in everyone's care." He thought the atmosphere would become tense, or that at least he would be the only one feeling awkward. But the Tang patriarch and his son didn't seem to care one bit. The two older men in the family just grinned from ear to ear, already deep in discussion. "Let's get right to it. Indeed, we must begin." This entire scene left a giant question mark hanging over Xiaolong's head. After a moment of discussion with his father, Tang Tiashan looked at Xiaolong and said, "Before you learn the poison arts of the Tang clan, I have something I want to show you." Xiaolong turned to him in surprise. "And what might that be?" Seeing his earnest expression, the two elders chuckled to each other. Tang Tiashan, as the clan head, spoke with a serious gaze. "The Hall of 10,000 Poisons. I guarantee you will love this place." The 4 members of the Tang family formed a line, with Xiaolong following last, right behind the old patriarch. As he curiously observed their surroundings in the rear courtyard, the patriarch spoke up. "We have been waiting for this moment," the old man said cheerfully to Xiaolong. "The moment you officially step into the Hall of 10,000 Poisons as a member of the Tang clan. This is our tradition, for the whole family to come here together." Xiaolong replied with enthusiasm. "I'm looking forward to it too, grandfather." Suddenly, his breath grew heavy, his face flushed with excitement. He was about to enter the legendary hall and witness its wonders. Asterisk. The Hall of 10,000 Poisons. Asterisk. Asterisk. It must be a place that stores countless types of venom. This is fascinating. Asterisk. Before he could finish his thought, Xiaolong's gaze unexpectedly fell upon Huayin, and he couldn't believe his eyes. Bathed in the morning sun, the beautiful young woman seemed to glow. Her captivating beauty and perfect curves made him gasp in admiration. Asterisk heavens. Asterisk. His face turned beet red uncontrollably as he thought, asterisk, a true beauty. She looks even more stunning from the side, like a living work of art. Asterisk Huayin's parents had, at some point, started observing his reactions. Instead of scolding him like many parents would, they simply chuckled, amused to see their future son-in-law so completely smitten with their daughter. Tang Tieshan suddenly spoke up, teasing him. "Young man, if you stare so intently like that, my daughter will get shy. You're one of the family now, so why are you standing there so dazed? It seems our son-in-law is completely captivated by our Huayin." Huayin reminded him, "Xiaolong, you should watch where you're going." And he, flustered and embarrassed, quickly replied. A short while later, they arrived before a chamber built into a mountain, guarded by 3 incredibly muscular sentinels. As he got closer, he recognized Chuo and Zhu. Their muscles rippled as they stood guard with stern faces. Suddenly, a warrior stepped forward, clasped his fist, and said, "You have arrived, Supreme Patriarch." The Tang Patriarch immediately replied, "I wish to show my grandson-in-law the Hall of 10,000 Poisons. Open the gate." The 3 guards quickly obeyed. Understood. Xiaolong observed everything with surprise. The security here was far more stringent than anything from the medieval era. After receiving the order, the sole armored guard shouted, "Open the gates." The 2 muscular sentinels immediately used all their strength to push open the colossal doors. It took an immense amount of power just to get them to budge. A guard grunted. "Opening the gates so early today?" Xiaolong looked at the 2 brawny men in shock. Seeing them struggle so intensely, he thought to himself, asterisk, does it really have to be this hard just to open a door? Asterisk. Once the 2 doors were fully open, Chuo and Zhou were panting, heavily, drenched in sweat. When everything was ready, the lead guard turned and gestured for them to enter. Tang Tieshan quickly nodded to Xiaolong. "Let's go in." As they stepped inside, the man explained, "This is an iron gate made from the Kunwu steel of the southern barbarians. To open this gate is a great honor." Xiaolong was stunned. "Is that so?" Once everyone was inside, Tang Tieshan proudly announced, "We have arrived." Xiaolong's eyes widened, looking around in utter amazement. Tang Tieshan continued, "This is the treasure vault that holds every kind of poison of the Sichuan Tang clan." The patriarch reiterated, "This is the myriad poison road of the hall. Be careful not to touch anything." Xiaolong asked curiously, "So this is the myriad poison road? Stored in jars and medicine pouches?" Tang Tieshan quickly replied, "That's right. There are many different types of poison here, like numbing poison and sleeping poison." As he spoke, Tang Tieshan nudged Xiaolong towards Huayin and said, "Yinner, you should explain things to Xiao Long. I'm sure our grandson-in-law would much rather hear it from you." Mrs. Tang, beside them, agreed. "That's right." Huayin didn't object, but a faint blush appeared on her cheeks. "Yes, father." After speaking, she led Xiaolong on a tour of the myriad poison road. "Come here," she said. "I'll show you the most potent poisons of the Tang sect, starting with Little Golden." The more she spoke, the more shy she became. This is qi-dissipating poison, a toxin that martial artists must be extremely wary of. If you inhale it, you won't be able to use your internal energy. So, be careful. This one here is heartbreak poison, soul annihilation poison, blood flame poison, and 7-step soul severing poison. Seeing their daughter pointing out the myriad powerful poisons of the Tang clan, Huayin's parents smiled proudly. They're both so adorable. Meanwhile, Huayin's expression turned serious as she said, "All of these are incredibly powerful poisons, but the most powerful poison of all, of the Tang clan, was a different beast entirely. She then handed Xiaolong a small seed, saying, "Take this." Staring at the tiny bean in his hand, Xiaolong was still confused. "What is this?" Hua Yin explained. "Excluding the poisons of the 10 great vicious creatures, this is the most powerful poison known today." She added, "This is the herb that symbolizes the Tang clan, the castor bean." At first, Xiaolong was baffled, wondering about a simple castor bean. But this was the source of ricin, a terrifyingly potent toxin. Just 2 milligrams is enough to kill a full-grown adult. Still in shock, he exclaimed, "Is it really 100,000 times stronger than X?" Hua Yin smiled at him. "This is the closest poison we have to the Tang clan's ultimate goal. Colorless, odorless, formless. That is why this poison is known as the golden toxin, the most precious of all." She continued, "And killing with this toxin is called a golden assassination." After hearing this, Xiaolong suddenly felt a blazing fire ignite around Hua Yin. At the same time, he heard her warning, "Remember this, Xiaolong, the strongest. Poison isn't necessarily the most painful or horrifying one. It is the one that kills silently and with absolute certainty. The poison arts of the Sichuan Tang clan strive for that very goal, silent and certain." Suddenly, images of his new family members flooded his mind, making him realize this was a clan of assassins. Just then, a voice cut through their conversation. "That's enough for now," Tang Jun called from a distance. "Next, let's go see the poisonous creatures that Xiaolong has been waiting for." Xiaolong's face immediately lit up with excitement. "You mean the poisonous creatures?" The old master encouraged him. "If you like them, you can manage them. The family will support King Yu with everything." Xiaolong was so thrilled he stammered, Really? You'll support my hobby?" Tang Jun quickly called to the others, "Well then, let's go right now." But before the old master could finish his sentence, an urgent message arrived, forcing them to a halt. "Family head, there is an urgent matter to report." Jubai rushed over, out of breath. Tang Shan asked, "Jubai, what's wrong?" After catching his breath, the messenger announced, "You are needed at the Xuanwu Pavilion immediately." Tang Shan asked curiously, "The Xuanwu Pavilion? Why there?" Jubai quickly explained, "The clan elders are waiting." The moment he heard that, Tang Jun angrily snapped, "What? Those old fools again?" Xiaolong suddenly remembered. Were these the elders she had mentioned? Jubai quickly added, "There are 2 matters. First, the medicine we sent to the Lord of Sichuan had no effect. He has sent a letter of complaint. For the second matter, he glanced hesitantly at Xiaolong. With a sigh, Xiaolong spoke up bluntly, "It's about the Hall of 10,000 Poisons, isn't it?" Tang Jun wasn't surprised at all, remarking, "News travels fast." With that, he and the others started to leave, not forgetting Xiaolong. "Let's go. Son-in-law, you're coming with me." Finally, at the Xuanwu Pavilion, a crowd of elders was already buzzing with discussion. As the group arrived, one of them shouted Tang Shan's name. Before he could even offer a greeting, they began scolding him. "How dare you make such a vital decision on your own? How could you marry our precious Hua Yin'er to an orphan of unknown origin?" Tang Shan shot back furiously. "An orphan of unknown origin?" He exploded with rage, defending Xiaolong. "Are you insulting my son-in-law?" The crowd quickly backpedaled. "No, that's not it, but it's the truth." Tang Jun stepped forward and declared, "I was the one who made the decision. Do any of you have an issue with that?" The lead elder stammered nervously. Supreme Head. Xiaolong heard the malicious attacks and looked displeased. The elder pleaded, "Supreme Head, please advise the family head. We had already agreed on another arrangement." Seeing the smile vanish from Xiaolong's face, Hua Yin quietly apologized for the trouble. Xiaolong just sighed, thinking to himself, "Great, now I've made her worry again." While the elders were still arguing, Xiaolong suddenly spoke up. "My apologies for interrupting the elders' discussion." He then said with a serious tone, "This entire situation seems to be due to my own lack of ability." Instantly, he slapped his own shoulder and declared, "If I can prove my capabilities, will the esteemed elders finally accept me?" An elder from afar looked, startled. "Prove yourself? What?" With a look of pure confidence, Xiaolong announced, "For example, by solving the difficult problem of the Lord of Sichuan." Hua Yin and her mother stood beside him, worried. They frantically whispered, "Xiaolong, what are you trying to do?" He thought, "I'm not one to care about status. But if anyone dares to disrupt my peaceful life with my pets, I will show them no mercy." In the grand pavilion, the crowd erupted into chaos. How dare Xiaolong argue with the elders? You dare? A silver-haired elder boomed. The elders are speaking, how dare a brat like you interrupt? Many others chimed in, criticizing him. That's right. Besides, do you even know what the Sichuan Lord's letter says? How can you speak so recklessly? Yingxi and her mother watched the argument unfold, and the mother said, Look at him, head. He has no background, yet he dares meddle in our affairs. This is precisely why we recommended a young man from a prestigious family as our son-in-law. Hearing those words, Xiaolong felt a wave of frustration. These old fools. I can't listen to this anymore. This is ridiculous. He remembered his live streams and the positive feedback from over 1 million followers and an average of 3,000 live viewers. With a surge of confidence, Xiaolong addressed the elders. I hear the elders have yet to acknowledge me as the son-in-law of the Tang clan. In that case, I am still a guest. Xiaolong continued to press his point, impressing even Tang Shan. Furthermore, not only did I help the Tang clan's treasure, Hua Yin'er, but I also saved the family head's life by eliminating the blood hand Asura, Jia Yunxiang. He clasped his hands in a show of respect, but his words were sharp. Elders, you dare to insult my benefactor and honored guest, right in front of me? Is this the so-called etiquette and tradition of the great Tang clan? In the world of chimeras, it's nothing new for Xiaolong to face a group attack. This has become a part of his life. Armed with extensive experience, he handled the situation with ease. In a blink of an eye, the furious elders suddenly changed their tune. One of them cleared his throat, rubbing his neck and stammering, Well, it's not quite like that. His head slightly, a disdainful smile playing on his lips as he thought, Pathetic. However, some doubts remained. But the blood hand Asura, Jia Yunxiang, defeating him seems truly impossible. Tang Shan, a staunch supporter of Xiaolong, brought forth the proof. Xiaolong is not lying. Take a look at this. This caused the elder beside him to gasp, stuttering, What is that? When the book was opened, everyone was stunned to see what was inside. The Blood Hand Demon Claw Manual, written in real blood. It truly belongs to the blood cult. Tang Shan smiled at his son-in-law. Xiaolong, show us your centipede. The boy obediently replied, Yes, father-in-law, making the onlookers even more curious. A centipede? He was summoning his treasures. A brilliant light flashed around his arm, capturing everyone's attention. Come on out, my babies. From the folds of his clothes, his adorable little creatures appeared. Blood-curdling cry, announcing their presence. The people around them stared, unable to believe their eyes. The golden centipede, Tang Shan quickly explained. That is, the offspring of the azure-striped centipede, raised by my son-in-law. If I told you they were the ones who killed Jia Yunxiang, would you believe me? The elders reeled, back from this revelation. What? The azure-striped centipede? This young man can actually control them? Tang Shan stood firm. If I can't acknowledge this, son-in-law, then what should I call him? Standing beside him, Xiaolong couldn't hide a smug grin. He even cooed to his creatures. My little darlings, remember now, no biting. The elders were too stunned to argue further. Finally, they changed the subject. We never said we wouldn't acknowledge him. It's just, there are procedures that must be followed. You ignored them, which is why the clan head is angry. Tang Jun sighed. Fine. We'll drop the matter of the son-in-law. But why oppose the issue of the 10,000 Poisons Hall? The elders immediately protested. He's not yet officially a member of the clan. How can we entrust the 10,000 Poisons Hall to a boy who isn't even of age yet? Hearing this, the old man began to waver. That's true. We can't hand over something so important. Tang Jun swiftly proposed a solution. Then it's simple. Can you prove your capabilities? Xiaolong's response was instant. Of course, he declared with absolute confidence. To prove I am worthy of the Tang clan, I will solve this the Tang clan's way, and that is by using poison. At his words, everyone clutched their heads in fear. What? They began to whisper frantically. Are you planning to poison the Lord of Sichuan? We're talking about sending medicine, not carrying out an assassination. Even Tang Jun and Tang Shan stared at him with looks of disbelief. Xiaolong just looked back innocently. Clan head, Ganava. What do you think? In his heart, Tang Jun thought, he's far too soft. No, we of the Tang clan will use poison. The very next day arrived. Xiaolong and Tang Jun were training. The old master spoke to him. A challenge is a challenge, but from today, you will begin learning the 5 poisons returning origin. Art of the Tang clan. Xiao Long cheered with excitement. However, the thought of more training made him ask, "Is it more physical training?" The old master replied, "Your body will adapt to the martial art as you practice." Tang Jun continued his lecture. The Tang sect emphasizes practicality. Therefore, you will learn things that can be immediately applied in real combat. The master unveiled a powerful heirloom weapon set. He introduced them one by one. These are hidden weapons: needles, darts, flying daggers, and of course, swords and blades. While there are many other types of hidden weapons, these 5 are the foundation. The master then tested him. "Do you know which of these is the easiest to use?" He hesitated before answering, "Probably daggers or throwing knives." Tang Jun acknowledged the answer. "Correct. Now then, which is the most difficult to use?" Xiao Long glanced at a small pouch. "It must be the caltrops, because you have to scatter the powder." The old man shook his head. "This time, you are wrong. The most difficult weapon to master is the needle." Xiao Long was amazed. "The needle? Is it because it's so small and thin that it's hard to throw?" The master explained, "It's because you must remember the exact position of every single one you've thrown. Perhaps a demonstration is better than an explanation." Xiao Long gasped as Tang Jun pulled out a simple writing brush. With practiced ease, the old master dismantled the brush. In a flash, it vanished, its components scattering through the air. Xiao Long watched in awe as the brush, as light as a feather and pure white, transformed into a rain of razor-sharp fragments. As they shot towards the ground, Tang Jun stood calmly, with his arms crossed. But Xiao Long leaped back in terror, pulling his legs up. He thought in horror, "These bristles, they're piercing my skin like needles." His eyes widened as he watched. The feathery fragments performed their deadly dance. Tang Jun explained, "The Tang sect has a hidden art called MANHWA. It is the ultimate secret technique of our clan, blanketing the entire surrounding area with hundreds, even thousands, of needles." A chill ran down Xiao Long's spine. "You mean, I have to fight an enemy while surrounded by a storm of needles like this?" Another question dawned on him. "If the entire area is covered in needles, where am I supposed to step?" The old master nodded grimly. "Exactly. That's why you must remember their positions, lest you impale yourself." Xiao Long gulped. He then asked, "So, I even have to remember the position of needles that are deflected by the enemy, or fall to the ground?" The master's reply was chilling. "Of course, if you are a practitioner of the 5 poisons, you must memorize at least 100 positions." As a prodigy, 𝑰𝒏𝒔𝒆 could already remember a 2,000. Xiao Long could only click his tongue in amazement. The scene shifts to a peaceful sky atop a mountain, the air fresh and filled with energy. Yet Xiao Long was completely drained, lying face down on the ground. 𝑰𝒏𝒔𝒆 approached him. "Xiao Long, are you all right?" He greeted her, "Miss 𝑰𝒏𝒔𝒆." He asked what she was doing here, and she quickly replied, "Ah, I heard you were going to catch the Xiongfeng, so I prepared this. If you don't need it." He immediately cut her off. "No, this is great. I was planning to wait, but with this, I can catch it myself." She looked surprised. "Wait? You were planning to wait for the Xiongfeng?" Xiao Long simply said, "You'll understand when we get there." 𝑰𝒏𝒔𝒆 was still confused. "Is that so?" Xiao Long then asked her. "Ah, Nang, do you know where the Xiongfeng's nest is?" She replied, "I've already found one. It's nearby. We can head there right now." But she hesitated. "But you have read the letter from the Lord of Sichuan, haven't you?" He confirmed. "Yes, of course." Hearing this, she pressed him. Xiao Long, you're still young, so I'm a little worried. Do you fully understand the contents of that letter?" He replied confidently. "Naturally, miss. This matter is very important to a man's vital energy." Hearing that, she blushed and held up a hand. "Enough. That's enough." She then asked, "You seem to understand the problem quite well." "That's right. The major issue the Lord of Sichuan is facing is impotence." She praised him. "Xiao Long, you're truly knowledgeable for your age," he stammered. "Ah, well, I lived alone, so..." Suddenly she bolted. "Let's hurry," she called out, leaving Xiao Long scrambling to follow. Miss 𝑰𝒏𝒔𝒆." The two ventured deep into a lush forest, where wild grass grew thick and flowers bloomed along the path. Xiao Long was momentarily distracted by a small climbing creature, so much so that 𝑰𝒏𝒔𝒆 had to quickly grab his collar to pull him along. They finally stopped at a certain spot. 𝑰𝒏𝒔𝒆 announced, We've arrived. Xiaolong looked around. Ah, you're right. Looking at a nearby cave, he said, they're definitely in here. As she put on protective gear, Hua Yin'er asked, but, Xiaolong, what's the point of finding a hornet's nest if there are no hornets? He explained to his fiancée. Although we are looking for the Zhongfeng, we're not actually going to catch them. She let out a startled, huh? The two began searching carefully through the crevices of the rocks. He peered deep into the cave and told her, the type of poisonous insect we need often lives inside these smaller hornet nests. Hua Yin'er was puzzled. A poison insect inside a hornet's nest? He affirmed, and then, spotting something, Xiaolong's face lit up. Just my luck. It seems this hive was already occupied. With a swift move, he used his chopsticks to snatch the tiny prey, shouting, Gotcha, you little rascal, leaving Huang Ganni completely stunned. Xiaolong, she asked in surprise. That insect. Is that why? He cut her off. That's right. We didn't come here for the Zhongfeng bear. We came for this. He held it up excitedly. This little guy is the key to solving the city lord's problem. Huanan examined the creature in his hand, asking doubtfully, Xiaolong, is that an earth clam? Hearing her guess, he raised the trembling insect high in front of her face and replied cheerfully, Yes, that's it, he thought to himself. So they call it an earth clam here. He brought the insect even closer for her to see. It looked truly pitiful, with teary eyes and a shivering body. He explained, this type of insect is often found inside Zhongfeng hives in the Central Plains. They call them earth clams, while in Korea, they're known as leafcutter bees from the Mlor family. Huan Gan was astonished. But why would an earth clam live inside a Zhongfeng hive? I've never heard of such a thing. He explained with a smile. Their life cycle is quite unique. Then, he began to share his knowledge. The reproductive methods of the MLOR family are bizarre. Most insects protect their eggs or create a safe environment for them, but this species does not. Their eggs are small, oval, and yellow, and can appear anywhere from a rocky cliff to a simple leaf. They can even be found in deserted or overgrown places. They just lay their eggs without a single care. Then, by some miracle, the leafcutter larvae hatch and climb to the highest point nearby. Once they reach the peak, they cling together, pretending to be a flower. But you should never search for leafcutter bee larvae online. When a beautiful honeybee flies by, searching for nectar, she'll see them and joyfully exclaim, "Oh, hello," thinking it's a real flower. The bee will then get to work, collecting her pollen. Meanwhile, the 7 insects disguised as a flower become sinister, knowing exactly what she'll do next. Their wicked little hands will reach for the bee, and the moment she gets close, they'll latch onto her, dooming the honeybee's entire hive. He pointed a finger at the earth clam in his hand. I don't know why. They choose honeybees, but I've heard it's the perfect environment for earth clam larvae to thrive. Hua Gan hesitated. Is that so? She bowed her head. Those poor, cute honeybees, she said, heartbroken. Xiaolong smiled comfortingly. It's just the law of nature. It can't be helped. She then remembered something else. But, isn't this the type of poison that burns your skin? I know that eating too much of it is fatal. He laughed in confirmation. That's right, it can cause severe skin burns. He described the wound from the orange liquid the insect secretes, explaining how it creates burn-like blisters on contact. She looked at the pathetic earth clam, her expression slowly turning red. She bit her lip and covered her mouth, whispering, even so, it has times that times effect? He replied, yes, until the poison is purged from the body. Seeing her expression, he narrowed his eyes and teased, it can certainly make a man rise to the occasion. Huan Gan instantly spun around and fled, her face beet red, shouting with her eyes squeezed shut. Stop, stop, stop. Let's just go back to the Myriad Poisons Palace. Xiaolong called after her in surprise. Wait, let me just catch a few more. A short while later, with more earth clams secured, he said. Let's return to the palace. I'll instruct the warriors on how to prepare the medicine. He looked at the men gathered before him and spoke slowly. Now, listen carefully. He held up a single finger. First, dry the earth clams and grind them into a fine powder. As he spoke, everyone's expressions turned dead serious. Mathematical formulas raced through their minds as he broke it down. Eating 3 fun, which is equivalent to 11.75 milligrams of the poison, would surely be fatal. For every 1 guan, or 3.75 kilograms of body weight, ingesting 3/10 of a fun, or 1.25 milligrams, would kill half of those who take it. He looked at the crowd and concluded, Therefore, prepare the medicine with a dosage of 1/10 of a fun, or 0.375 milligrams. That's equivalent to about 10 drops of water, or 0.351 milliliters. After finishing his speech, he asked, "Do you all understand?" Everyone stood in stunned silence. Inside, they were all thinking the same thing. My head is about to explode. The man in the lead slowly removed his mask. Your explanation was crystal clear. Your grasp of mathematics is brilliant. He emphasized each word. We will not fail. Xiaolong replied cheerfully. Great. Haha. I'm counting on all of you. That night, under a full moon, a voice echoed from a brightly lit room. I never knew the earth clam had such an effect. After hearing his granddaughter recount the tale of their hunt and the events in the medicine hall, her grandfather mused, "It seems I should reconsider the poisons in the Tang clan's possession." Huanggan obediently replied, "Yes, I think so too, grandfather." He gently raised a hand to his mouth, cleared his throat, and asked, "Is that boy still proficient with numbers?" Huanggan Ni replied, "Yes." He divided one fun into 10 parts and said, "It was equal to the weight of 10 drops of water." Hearing this, the old man's expression turned serious. He gently rubbed his thumb and forefinger together and said in a low tone, "Incredible." Recalling the boy's immature appearance, his brows furrowed. I thought I knew a great deal about poisons, but that boy continues to surprise me. The more I learn, the more I see what a priceless asset he is to the Tang family. Suddenly, he turned to his granddaughter and asked, with a curious look, "So, do you find yourself liking him more than you did at first?" Huanggan stammered, "Grandfather." A faint blush colored her cheeks, her eyes avoiding his. She clenched her fist and raised it to her mouth to hide her shyness. "I just feel that I was too hasty in my judgment. I feel guilty now." He closed his eyes, as if he understood her heart, and gently advised, "That's fine. Just be sure to treat him well from now on." Then he asked, "But how will you test the medicine's effectiveness?" Hearing this, she gasped, her eyes flying open. Well, about that." Remembering what happened earlier, she covered her blushing face with her hands, feeling heat radiate from her skin. "The elders are far too proud," she said, recalling Xiaolong's wicked grin. "The clan will have to punish them." As she explained the situation to her grandfather, he asked in surprise, "What?" But in the next moment, he burst out laughing. Ha ha ha, what an interesting character." Huanggan stood beside him silently, her face still bright red. Later, everyone was gathered in a large hall. All eyes were on the warrior standing before them. The elders watched intently, one resting his chin on his hand, another with his arms crossed. The warrior placed a hexagonal wooden box in front of Xiaolong. "Young Master Xiaolong, your medicine." He looked at the box on the table. "Oh? What's this?" The warrior clasped his hands respectfully. "We mixed in licorice powder and honey to add a bit of sweetness, to make it easier for you to take." How thoughtful, the main character thought. He opened the box to find a glossy black pill resting on red velvet. He asked, "Did you prepare this exactly as I instructed?" The man replied cautiously, "Of course, Lord Xiaolong. We followed the dosage you specified, to the letter." Hearing this, a murmur went through the crowd of elders outside. Such an over-the-top display," one elder scoffed, crossing his arms, acting as if he's crafted something truly legendary. The man seated at the head of the table closed his eyes, his authoritative voice silencing the room. Silence. He locked his gaze on Xiaolong. "The concoction is made. How will you prove its efficacy?" The young man wondered. "Prove it?" Suddenly, a powerful hand slammed the table with a resounding crash. A voice roared, "Of course you must prove it, elder." It was the pot-bellied elder who had struck the table. He shot to his feet, shouting, "How can we possibly send an unverified poison to the Lord of Sichuan City?" "He's right," another chimed in. "Any mistake could be catastrophic." Xiaolong turned to the warrior beside him. "Then there's no other way." The warrior nodded, "Yes," and began searching inside his robes. The elders watched his every move intently. The warrior approached them and placed a hexagonal box, identical to Xiaolong's, on the table before them. The pot-bellied elder grunted dismissively. He picked up the pill, examining it with disdain. "You want us to test this? Who knows what you've put inside?" The one beside him whispered a warning. "This brat, he's not just an outsider, he likely has sinister motives." Hearing this, Xiaolong simply smiled knowingly. Grandfather Yin Hua, who was enjoying the show, was snapped back to reality by a sudden call. "Grandfather." He turned in surprise. "What is it? Didn't you say that practitioners of the Tang clan's arts are immune to all poisons? Is that true?" The old man nodded. "That's correct." Xiaolong clapped his hands with childlike glee. teasing him further. But then, why do you look so worried? The grandfather touched his own head as if agreeing. Now that you mention it, perhaps I am a little concerned. Feeling everything was going according to his plan, and seeing the heavy expressions on the elders' faces, Xiaolong cleared his throat. Come now, gentlemen. You are all elders of this great clan. You've reached the state of 100 poisons immunity, he emphasized. Surely, you aren't afraid of a mere swamp dweller's venom. Just as he predicted, an elder crushed the pill, a confident smirk spreading across his face. Xiaolong's group couldn't hide their amusement as they watched the elders, one by one, pop the pills into their mouths. They even began to mock him. Who would be afraid of such a low-grade poison? Another quickly added, Exactly, you've severely underestimated us. As one elder swallowed the pill, he made a loud threat. If this concoction has no effect, you will face the consequences. We will restore discipline to this clan. With that said, he closed his mouth, crushed the pill with his teeth, and swallowed. The hall fell deathly silent. Everyone waited for the pill's effects to manifest. Time ticked by, but nothing seemed to happen. One elder couldn't help but laugh, pointing at Xiaolong. See? Nothing's happening at all. Before he could finish his sentence, he froze, as if struck by lightning. All the elders suddenly hung their heads in unison. The atmosphere was both silent and bizarre. On that day, the clan's discipline was, indeed, powerfully re-established. Under the bright sun, a voice declared, Send the medicine to the Lord of Sichuan City. This concoction is highly effective. A moment later, the elders departed with the most peculiar expressions, each one flustered, clutching the front of their robes as they left with beet-red faces. Xiaolong remarked, Just as you said, grandfather. Taunt them about poison, and they walk right into the trap. The old man laughed. Haha. That's because they still have some pride left. They couldn't do anything else. The grandfather smiled, adding, But don't hold it against them. Everything they do is for the sake of the clan. Hearing this, Xiaolong was skeptical. Really? The old man closed his eyes peacefully. In the end, we are all family. The young man replied obediently, I understand. Just then, Huayin rushed in, looking panicked as she ran. Xiaolong, something terrible has happened. Seeing her state, he asked, What is it, my lady? She gasped for air, then managed to say, Our. She slowly stood up straight, catching her breath. Our pets are in trouble. Xiaolong was stunned. Huh? Suddenly, the grandfather's hand shot out, grabbing his collar with an iron grip. His voice was a low growl. Son-in-law, his face contorted with fury, eyes blazing like fire. What do you mean? Our pets? He lifted Xiaolong by the collar, veins popping on his neck. Xiaolong, did the two of you have a child? It seems I haven't disciplined you properly. Huayin, frozen beside them, shouted out in a mix of anger and embarrassment. It's not a child. It's the Wugongs, the centipedes that Xiaolong is raising. At that moment, Xiaolong finally snapped out of his daze, his face filled with worry. He opened his mouth, but for a long moment, no words came out. The grandfather released his collar. Xiaolong rushed over to Huayin, anxiously asking, Huh? You mean the Wugongs? She quickly explained. Lately, I saw you were training more, so I asked my sister to look after them. Hearing this, Xiaolong thought to himself, My precious babies. Are they in trouble? In his panic, his hand accidentally brushed against her chest. Let me see, he said. A moment later, his granddaughter's annoyed shout echoed in the grandfather's ears. Ah, Xiaolong. After a short while, the two of them found the horde of Wugongs lying quietly on the ground. Ignoring the bright red handprint on his face, he whispered, You said they started moving strangely? Huayin clasped her hands tightly. They were fine all morning. I just hope they aren't hurt anywhere. He looked at the adorable faces of the Wugongs as they lay on the ground and noticed something. Their color and the transparency of their shells. It looks odd. Suddenly, his eyes lit up. A thought struck him. This is, he smiled brightly, Lady Huayin. It seems there's no need to worry after all. Watching the centipedes begin to shift slowly, he explained, They're just molting. Like snakes, when their bodies grow larger, they need to shed their skin. It seems that time is now. Grandfather and Huayin asked in surprise. Molting? Leaning against the enclosure, Xiaolong nodded. That's right. Suddenly, one of the Wugongs began rubbing its head on the ground, creating a rustling sound. Huayin cried out, Xiaolong, look! They watched as the creature, with its new, orange-gold skin, slowly emerged from its old shell. Its head is out, she exclaimed. When the wugong had completely freed itself from its old exoskeleton, the old man's voice filled with wonder. Oh, truly marvelous. Hua Yin was also watching intently. Suddenly, she gasped, Xiaolong! The other two are about to molt as well. Another centipede slowly wriggled out of its shell. Its new, soft, orange-gold carapace looked so smooth, you could almost want to touch it. The last one also gently shed its old skin, its whole body moving slowly. Seeing all three lying obediently on the ground, he said happily, They've all finished molting. Hua Yin's eyes sparkled as she looked at them. It seems like they've gotten bigger than before. She turned to Xiaolong. What are their names? He paused. Names? He hadn't thought of any. His expression immediately turned serious. He put a hand to his chin, pretending to think deeply. After a moment, looking at the three creatures on the ground, he decided he was a genius, and declared, Let's call them Wu 1, Wu 2, and Wu 3. Hearing these ridiculously simple names, Hua Yin immediately shook her head in protest. Absolutely not. She imagined a day when these small centipedes could soar through the skies. She turned to him and explained, If a wugong lives for 1,000 years, it can ascend into a dragon. They need names that are far more majestic, befitting their draconic forms. Hearing this, he couldn't help but laugh out loud. Ha ha, my lady, how could a bunch of centipedes possibly become dragons after 1,000 years? But the grandfather, overhearing their debate, interjected. He declared that the 1,000-year-old centipedes would be known as dragons, to be precise, heavenly dragons. Hearing the old man's tone, he instantly understood where Hoangan got her attitude from. So he's the one who taught her that, he thought wryly. He bowed his head, carefully studying the three centipedes. All right, I've decided on their names. He turned to Hoa and announced, Let's call them Se, Huang, and Bun. She repeated the names, a hint of surprise in her voice. Se, Huang, and Bun, he explained slowly. The first one to hatch, we'll call Sa. The second one has a feminine grace, so her name is Huang, like a sweet fragrance. And the third, with its glossy shell, its name is Bun. Hoa Ngan gazed at the three creatures, softly repeating the names he had chosen. Se, Huang, Bun. They both watched the centipedes with fascination as she spoke gently, Isn't it the father who usually names the children? And with that, the three baby centipedes officially had their new names. Later, as Xiaolong walked through the streets, his staggering gait made everyone turn and stare. He thought to himself, as he walked, Another day has passed, and these centipedes are still clinging to me. It's exhausting. He finally sat down, slumping against a crate by the roadside. Letting out a deep sigh, he noticed the dampness of his inner clothes. My body still isn't completely dry, he mused, but at least I can move around now. He sighed again. Ugh, this is still so uncomfortable. Just then, the centipedes wriggled out from under his shirt. One of them nudged his cheek, letting out a happy chirp. A small smile touched his lips. You've all gotten so much heavier, he thought. The biggest change is definitely your size. He stretched out on the crate, staring up at the sky, a red mark already forming on his cheek from the friction. The centipede beside him chirped gently, as if to say, Sorry for being so heavy. Another one quickly joined in with a chorus of chirps. He let out a long sigh, lost in recollection. At first, they were barely the size of sausages, he remembered. But now, they're as thick as my entire arm. A sense of pride washed over him as he watched them grow, feeling every little movement beside him. My waist must feel pretty crowded for them now. They can only cling to my arms and sides. Suddenly, a loud, boisterous laugh cut through the air. Ha! Look there! I told you it would be here. He sat up straight, his eyes darting towards the source of the voice. Two men, one tall and one short, were swaggering down the road. The shorter one had a distinct mole on his face. He was clutching a small, red pouch. He smirked at his companion. See? It's definitely the Sichuan-Tong branch. We need to watch this place closely. The man on his right nodded in agreement. Let's move. Xiaolong absent-mindedly stroked the head of a centipede clinging to him. That grating laugh echoed again. Ha! Making money has never been easier. He looked after them, puzzled. What was that all about? Glancing up, he noticed it was a truly beautiful day, with fluffy white clouds drifting lazily across the sky. Meanwhile, at the Sichuan-Tang mansion, the atmosphere was peaceful, as always. The head of the family cleared his throat. 2 dragons. This is truly joyous news. He looked at Xiaolong and asked, Weren't you the ones who just sent your homemade medicine to the city lord of Sichuan? Xiaolong nodded. That's right. He pictured the portly city lord. So overjoyed he was moved to tears. The patriarch gestured in approval. I've heard the medicine was a remarkable success. As a result, the city lord has sent a generous reward and his personal thanks. Hearing this, both of them were overjoyed. Is that true, sir? Xiaolong asked, his face lighting up. Huanggan's father let out a hearty laugh. You've only just joined our family, and you're already bringing such fortune. You have done a great service for our house. Xiaolong laughed sheepishly, scratching his head. It was nothing, really. Suddenly, the patriarch's expression turned serious. He slowly stroked his beard, his gaze fixed on Xiaolong. And for that very reason, I shall bestow upon you a spirit medicine, whether you humbly refuse or not. Xiaolong was stunned. A spirit medicine? You mean? He instantly recalled the old man's previous words. Spirit medicines increase one's internal energy. Hoa Engan cut in. Father, what kind of spirit medicine is it? He replied, Oh, it's nothing too grand. He looked at them both, then slowly enunciated each word. The honey of the golden-haired bee king. Xiaolong's mind immediately jumped to honeycombs. Bee honey? He thought. They say internal energy is crucial to becoming a true master. So I must accept this. He bowed gratefully. Thank you, father-in-law. But Huanggan's expression instantly darkened, the joy completely vanishing from her face. Her voice was cold. Father, she asked flatly, you said this was a reward, and it's just honey? Her father, taken aback by her tone, looked uncomfortable. He stammered, well, you see, but before he could finish his sentence, she grabbed Xiaolong's hand, her voice filled with anger. Xiaolong's contribution was significant and cannot be brushed aside. Even though the golden-haired bee king is a mid-tier poison insect, its honey is the lowest grade elixir among all spirit medicines. You can't be stingy with his reward. He deserves better. Her brow furrowed as she demanded justice for him. He deserves at least a spirit medicine that can increase a full year of internal energy. Her father's shoulders slumped, his voice dropping to a near whisper. Even so, daughter, the cost to prepare such a thing is not cheap. Hearing his excuse, she clenched her fists tightly, her eyes burning like embers. She gritted her teeth. Compared to what Xiaolong accomplished, that is a pitiful price. Her father avoided her fiery gaze and coughed awkwardly, thinking, a grown daughter is truly like water spilled from a cup. Xiaolong broke the heavy silence, turning to his father-in-law. Sir, what exactly is a golden-haired bee king? The patriarch turned back, clearing his throat to regain his composure. An image of a massive, golden hive flashed in his mind, with enormous bees buzzing tirelessly back and forth. He began to explain. The golden-haired bee king is a mid-tier poison insect that resides deep in the forests. Imagine a massive bee, about the size of a small dog. Based on experience, consuming its honey can increase one's internal energy by about 2 months. However, it wasn't the internal energy that caught Xiaolong's attention. It was the creature's incredible size. His eyes lit up with pure excitement. As big as a puppy? You say? How fascinating. Seeing his delighted expression, Hoa Engan pinched his cheek to snap him out of it. Hey, wait a second. I'm still angry on your behalf. Her father seized the opportunity to explain himself, speaking a bit hesitantly. Huanggan, my child, you misunderstand. I thought Xiaolong might prefer to find the golden-haired bee king himself, which is why I made this offer. Xiaolong froze, a thought striking him. Go find it. Myself? He shot to his feet, unable to contain his excitement. Father-in-law, are you saying I can go and find it myself? The old man simply nodded. Yes, his breathing quickened, his face flushing with excitement. Collect the honey myself? He thought, his heart racing. Back when I was a YouTuber, I did this kind of thing all the time. Without another thought, he dashed towards the door, shouting over his shoulder, Let's go, father-in-law. When it comes to collecting honey, I'm a pro. The patriarch burst into a triumphant laugh. Haha, I knew you'd be thrilled. Huanggan could only sigh as she watched the two of them rush off. Their excited chatter still echoed in the hall. Xiaolong asked eagerly, So, what exactly does a golden-haired bee king look like? Her father replied dryly, It looks like a bee, of course. After leaving the Sichuan-Tang estate, their journey began. On the way, Xiaolong mused to himself, Since this is a valuable tip that father-in-law provided, there shouldn't be anyone else competing for it. But when they arrived, his hopes were dashed. 2 rival groups were already there, locked in a shouting match. A man with a scar on his face yelled, We got here first! So the golden-haired bee king's honey belongs to us. A man in black robes shot back without missing a beat. What are you talking about? We purchased the information on its location legally. Therefore, it rightfully belongs to us. Xiaolong's group exchanged a look of surprise. The scarred man turned on the other group, his voice full of disbelief. You bought the information? So did we. That man. A shaggy-haired fellow with a large mole on his face. Did you get your information from him? The man in black couldn't hide his shock. How could you possibly know that? Regardless, we're not backing down. Xiaolong's expression suddenly froze. He recalled two figures he'd seen on the road. Could it have been them? The truth dawned on him. They sold the same information to multiple buyers. Hearing the argument, Hua Yin's father trembled with barely contained fury. He clenched his fists, his lips a thin line, cursing them under his breath. "Those wretched fools," he roared. "How dare you shame the Sichuan-Tang clan right here?" Everyone whipped their heads toward the source of the voice. Shock was etched on every face. A man stammered in terror. What? The Sichuan-Tang clan? Xiaolong felt a surge of frustration. This was ruining his honey-gathering plan. He remembered the words of Hua Yin's father before the journey began. "Xiaolong, this is your first time out in the world. You must always be on your guard. And remember, you are a member of the Tang clan." Xiaolong had answered respectfully. "Yes, sir." The man then looked at the warriors assembled below. "Take them with you," he said seriously. "You need to learn how to lead men." Xiaolong was taken aback. "What? You want me to lead them?" He glanced at Hua Yin, hesitating. "But, Miss Hua Yin." Before he could finish, the man let out a booming laugh. "Ha ha, you boy. Hua Yin heir is yours. You are her life partner." Hearing this, Xiaolong's face turned beet red as he stammered. "Life partner?" Hua Yin just smiled encouragingly. "You'll do a great job, Xiaolong." She then added, "I'll help you too," which only made him more flustered. I'll do my best." Back in the present, the air between the Sichuan-Tang clan and the other factions crackled with tension, their glares locking like daggers. Xiaolong worried. "What do I do now?" He turned to the man beside him, Captain 𝑰𝒏𝒔𝒔 of the Bloody Poison Squad. "How should we handle this? Should we offer them a share?" 𝑰𝒏𝒔𝒔 stroked his chin, his voice low. "Share with them?" He crossed his arms, his disapproval clear. "Who are they to demand a share from the Sichuan-Tang clan?" Hua Yin agreed. "I don't know who they are, but they have some nerve." She shot a look at the opposing group, killing intent flashing in her eyes. To dare sell information that our Tang clan already purchased. The enemy leader heard her and recognized her face, his eyes widening in shock. "The poison flower. Yue Hui?" The man behind him cried out in fear. "A direct descendant of the Tang clan is here?" The leader immediately clasped his hands, his jaw clenched as he weighed his options. He bowed his head. The Fengyun sect had no idea this matter was connected to the Sichuan-Tang clan. "We will withdraw." Seeing his sudden retreat, the surrounding people were stunned, but they quickly understood. One by one, they followed his lead. "The Yunhu sect also begs its leave." Another bowed. A different man cursed in fury. "Damn it, I won't let this go," before vanishing into the trees. Watching them flee as if they'd seen a ghost, Xiaolong was baffled. They just ran? He couldn't help but wonder, is the Sichuan-Tang clan really that terrifying? Seeing them disappear, he asked, "Is it over?" "Probably not," 𝑰𝒏𝒔𝒔 replied calmly. He predicted, "They're most likely hiding somewhere nearby. Men like these don't give up so easily." He then turned and ordered his subordinate, 𝒌𝒏, pinpoint their locations. 𝒌𝒏 cupped his fist respectfully. "Yes, Grand Master." Seeing Xiaolong's anxious face, Hua Yin reassured him. "Don't worry, Xiaolong." He stared out at the dense forest ahead, muttering, "My bees." Moments later, Hua Yin, Xiaolong, and 𝒌𝒏𝒔 were hiding behind a large boulder. Before them stood a massive tree with gaping holes in its trunk, where several giant bees buzzed menacingly. Upon closer inspection, the bees were a mix of black and gold, covered in thick fur. They flew in and out of the tree trunk relentlessly, the sound of their wings echoing through the air. "That's it," Xiaolong exclaimed. "The golden-haired wasp king. This is my first time seeing one," Hua Yin said, awestruck. "It's huge," Xiaolong beamed with joy. "Isn't it adorable?" Hua Yin nodded. "Its fur looks so fluffy." "That's why it's called the golden-haired wasp king," 𝒌𝒏𝒔𝒔 added with pride. After observing for a while, Xiaolong made a deduction. "Still, this colony seems a bit small. Maybe a few hundred? How can a wasp grow that big?" A strange word caught Hua Yin's attention. "Colony?" he explained patiently. "Ah, that's what you call an entire swarm of bees. Normally, a hive has 5,000 to 7,000. She was amazed. "You can tell that without even going inside?" Xiaolong answered confidently. "You just need to watch how many fly in and out of the entrance. From that, you can get a rough estimate." Just then, the sound of footsteps behind them made them turn. 𝒌𝒏𝒔 knelt on one knee. "Grandmaster, I've located the 4 factions." "Where are they?" 𝒌𝒏𝒔 asked. 𝒌𝒏𝒔 hesitated before revealing. "Well," he recounted his surveillance. "Just as you predicted. Right now they've started a fire and are lying in wait. He couldn't help but curse under his breath. Those bastards. They're directly opposite us. I can't see exactly what they're doing, but they're definitely planning to make a move. After hearing the report, 𝑰𝒏💔 placed a hand on his chin, deep in thought. So, they're waiting for nightfall to steal the honey, using the Tang clan's own method. Xiaolong's curiosity was piqued. The Tang clan's method? Seeing his interest, the captain explained. If you burn mugwort leaves and let the smoke drift into the hive, the wasps become much more docile. Then, we can go inside and collect the honey. Hearing this, Xiaolong nodded in admiration. Oh, that's a brilliant method. Beside them, 𝒏𝒔 spoke up hesitantly. But the wind is currently blowing towards us. The group looked up and realized he was right. Ah, they all exclaimed in unison. While everyone else was filled with worry, Xiaolong suddenly clenched his fist, striking it against his other palm with a triumphant shout. I've got it, 𝒏𝒔 asked eagerly. Sir, have you thought of a plan? A faint blush of excitement appeared on Xiaolong's face as he shared his idea. If the wind is blowing towards us, that means we can use it to mask our scent. Huayin considered it for a moment. That's right. Xiaolong immediately shot to his feet, looked towards the tree, and yelled, I'll be right back. Xiao. Xiaolong, Huayin cried out in alarm. As he darted off, she desperately grabbed his sleeve to hold him back. You can't. Xiaolong, the golden-haired wasp king, is a high-level poisonous insect. It's too dangerous. But instead of fear, he was filled with determination. Just once, I'm just going to try and touch it, then I'll be right back. Suddenly, a massive boulder came tumbling down right in front of them, making them both scream in terror. The boulder continued rolling towards the hive of the Wasp King, before coming to a stop. They both stared in horror at the scene. Xiaolong trembled, whispering, Uh-oh. From within the tree, the wasps swarmed out instantly. They were radiating pure killing intent. Huayin quickly wrapped her arms around Xiaolong, pulling him away in the opposite direction. We have to run, now, she yelled in panic. With his neck caught in her grip, Xiaolong could only let out a choked cry. The once peaceful forest erupted into chaos as a suffocating tension filled the air. High above, a thick mist drifted by as the sky slowly darkened towards dusk. Xiaolong sat cross-legged on a rock, sighing in frustration. Is there really no other way? He closed his eyes, forcing himself to calm down and organize his thoughts. I need to go against the wind. I needed to spark a flame. And found myself trapped between the 4 sects and the 7 bees. He thought of those insects, with their bizarre, cloud-like fur, and his jaw tightened. The golden fur bee king. This was clearly different from any bee he knew. Opening his eyes, he touched his chin. The memory of Huaun carrying him to safety flooding his mind. A spine-chilling hum filled the air. He turned, his face lighting up instantly. Ah, Miss Huang'an. She was there with his centipedes. 2 rested on her shoulders, while she held another in her hands. They seemed to be done eating, she said with a gentle smile. They were buzzing all around, so I brought them to you. The centipedes chirped excitedly at the sight of him. He was deeply moved. Thank you so much, Miss Huang'an. The centipedes flew to him, landing gently. They've grown much calmer, Xiaolong remarked softly. Huang'an sat beside him. Though no words were exchanged, a warm, comfortable silence settled between them. After a while, Huang'an broke the silence. Have you discovered anything new? He hesitated slightly. I just need a little more time to observe. She immediately looked apologetic. I'm so sorry for rushing you. Please, Xiaolong, take your time. There's no need to hurry. Hearing that, the pressure somehow mounted. He just smiled, thinking to himself, haha, she's definitely rushing me. Suddenly, Huang'an's eyes widened. Huh? Xiaolong, look over there. She pointed towards the base of a distant tree. In the distance, 2 monkeys were locked in a fierce battle, while a swarm of bees buzzed furiously around them. A chaotic symphony of shrieks and buzzing filled the air. Monkeys? Are they fighting each other? She asked. He stared, astonished. It was really a pair of monkeys. One monkey raised its arms and legs, a primal display of aggression, letting out a barrage of intimidating shrieks. The other met its challenge without an ounce of fear, retaliating with equal ferocity. Huang'an gasped, covering her mouth. Oh heavens, they look absolutely enraged. But Xiaolong simply watched in silence, his eyes focused, analytical. Suddenly, a strange fragrance wafted past his nose. Miss Huang'an, he called out, scanning the area. Do you smell something? He traced the scent back to the golden-haired hornet king's nest. He made a cautious guess. This scent. Can it be? His expression turned grim as the horrifying possibility dawned on him. Pheromones. He pointed urgently towards the tree. Ms. 𝒂𝒏𝒔, we have to get away from here, now. In a moment, the hornets will go berserk and swarm this place. Though she didn't understand why, 𝒂𝒏𝒔 nodded without hesitation. Huh? Right. She swiftly stood up, scooped him into her arms, and took off, just like before. Xiaolong was momentarily stunned by her incredible speed. Just as they leaped into the air, a massive explosion erupted from the ground below. Dirt and rocks flew everywhere. 𝒂𝒏𝒔 landed, holding him tight, skidding to a halt. Her body froze, her expression one of utter shock as she stared at the scene. Before them, a terrifying sight unfolded. The hornet swarm poured out like a living tempest. One of the monkeys had been torn to shreds, while the other writhed on the ground, barely clinging to life. Massive welts were already appearing on its limbs. The swarm descended gleefully upon its feast. Seeing the monkeys become a banquet for the hornets, 𝒂𝒏𝒔 whispered in horror. We were almost caught in that. He nodded grimly. Exactly. She turned to him, her eyes filled with curiosity. But Xiaolong, how did you know the hornets were about to attack? You clearly warned me to move. Before we even heard them. Recalling the fragrance, he stammered, Ah, it was. The scent. What scent? She pressed. 𝒂𝒏𝒔 paused, thinking, now that you mention it, it did smell a bit like night tuberose. He was stunned to hear her name the flower. Looking at her calm expression, a thought struck him. Could it be? She can actually identify different pheromones? To confirm his theory, he asked, You recognize that scent? 𝒂𝒏𝒔 smiled. Of course, she continued. The fragrance from before was identical to night tuberose. Before she could even finish, he lunged forward, gripping her shoulders. Overjoyed, he exclaimed, That's it. That's the key. 𝒂𝒏𝒔 blushed, startled. Ah, Xiaolong. Overwhelmed with joy, he buried his face in her shoulder, tears of relief streaming down. The sudden intimacy made her face flush crimson, though she didn't know why he was crying. His little centipedes poked their heads out from his robes. Xiaolong finally looked up from her embrace, a brilliant smile on his face. I've figured it out, he declared. The method to wipe out the 4 sects and claim the moon honey. Under the bright, silent moon, several groups gathered around crackling fires. Each grilled their own catch, while sentries stood guard in the darkness. One man threw his head back, downing a bottle of wine. His face flushed. The scent of roasting fish filled the air. After his drink, he wiped his mouth and roared with laughter. Ah, that's the stuff. His companion leaned in. So, when do you think we'll make our move for the honey? The man mulled it over. Honestly? Who knows? 3 days ago, they were running around like headless chickens. Now, it's dead quiet. He made a wild guess. They must be plotting something big. The man with a long scar grunted in agreement. Yeah, probably. Suddenly, his companion asked, Hey, is this honeycomb really worth that much? You're not telling me we've been tricked our whole lives, are you? If it's royal-grade beeswax, it's worth a fortune, the other replied. Only the imperial family gets to use it. They'll harvest the honey and leave the comb, and the leftovers will all be ours. Thinking of the riches, he let out a sinister chuckle. And if we fail? Ke-he-he. The other man rubbed his hands, mimicking the greedy laugh. He-he-he. Remembering the girl with the ice-cold eyes, the first man's tone grew serious. Still, we have to be careful of that poison flower, of the martial world. We can't let her get in our way. But then, thinking of her beauty, he laughed again. Though she's not bad to look at, that figure of hers. Ke-he-he. The man opposite him licked his lips with a lecherous grin. Ha, just thinking about it gives me the chills. Another man joked, Who knows? One of us might even become her husband, as the family's son-in-law. A disgusting voice echoed, Oh, of course. A life saved must be repaid. But suddenly, a strange, sweet fragrance began to fill the air. The speaker froze mid-sentence with a grunt. The crowd stirred, rising to their feet. Where's this scent coming from? Someone whispered. Could it be a poison flower? Kaka, it must be. Her fragrance must be as deadly as she is. But as the scent grew stronger, their expressions twisted into pure shock. Their jaws dropped. What is that? Someone finally recognized the source and screamed, It's the queen. The queen bee is leading the swarm in an all-out assault. This is our chance. We move in now, right? Stepping forward through the tall grass, a confident grin on his face, he declared, Let's go claim the queen's honey. In his hand, he clutched a small object wrapped carefully in cloth. The 3 of them moved forward with caution. Arriving at the massive tree, they hesitated before the dark, gaping entrance. 𝒂𝒏𝒔 tried to steady his nerves, clearing his throat. Xiaolong, this looks dangerous. Allow me to take the lead. One by one, the 3 of them stepped inside. Once their eyes adjusted, they couldn't help but gasp in awe. Whoa, look at that. The hive is massive. Above them hung a colossal honeycomb, glowing a brilliant gold, its hexagonal cells built with an impossible perfection that left them breathless. 𝑰𝒏💔 began to light a fire to create smoke. Good thing the entire swarm seems to have flown out, he said. But Xiaolong heard a strange noise, and his gaze sharpened. What's going on? Not believing what he was seeing, 𝑰𝒏💔 squinted into the depths of the hive. His voice trembled with disbelief. There's no honey? That's impossible. But it was true. The countless cells of the hive were completely empty. Huan Gan looked on with a serious expression. Could it be that not a single bee was left behind, just as Xiaolong predicted? But how? This had never happened before. It was strange. An unsettling thought crossed Xiaolong's mind. This hive didn't have a single egg. 𝑰𝒏💔 asked what that had to do with the missing honey. He boldly put forth his theory. The bees must have been preparing to leave for a long time, so they consumed all their stored honey. He continued, speculating that they sensed the presence of humans nearby. Huayin sighed, saying, "Ah, so that's how it is." To confirm his suspicion, he approached a nearby hive to observe, adding, "That's right. When a swarm decides to migrate, they stop laying eggs. They have no time or energy to care for the larvae." Suddenly, he froze. He spotted the rear of a bee, and its size was absolutely massive. A wicked grin spread across his face as he asked 𝑰𝒏💔, "Sir, if you used Qinggong continuously without rest, how long could you maintain it?" The man was surprised, but answered, "At a moderate pace, I could last about half a day." Curiosity got the better of him, and he asked why Xiaolong was suddenly asking. Just then, Chubai's panicked voice echoed from outside. "Young Master Xiaolong," he stammered. The queen bee." Remembering the sight he just witnessed, he frantically urged them on as the golden bees began to return. "You must leave here at once." But Xiaolong didn't budge. Instead, he bent down as if trying to grab something, hesitating for a moment. "Wait a second." Hearing this, 𝑰𝒏💔 immediately shouted, "We have to go. We can leave young Master Xiaolong behind." Seeing him dawdling, Huayin grabbed his collar. "Xiaolong, hurry up." Chubai, still worried by the entrance, yelled, "Faster." Xiaolong quickly followed, concealing something within his robes. Under the bright moonlight, the three returned to their team, breathless and exhausted. Phew. Someone nearby sighed in relief. That was almost a disaster. Huayin gasped for air. Phew. Good thing we escaped before the swarm returned. The creature in Xiaolong's chest poked its head out, desperate for fresh air. Huayin asked in astonishment, "Xiaolong, what is that you're holding?" He smiled, lifting the giant bee. "This is the queen of the swarm. Since there was no honey, I brought back the one who makes it." 𝑰𝒏💔 gasped in horror. "The queen bee?" Huayin stared at the bee, which was trying its best to look cute, and hesitated. "Young Master Xiaolong, don't tell me." Suddenly, the faces of both 𝑰𝒏💔 and Huayin turned pale. The bee in his hands let out a piercing shriek. "Bew! Bew!" But Xiaolong was completely unfazed, even adding, "Soon, the swarm will realize their queen is missing and come after us." Behind them, the swarm was already gathering into a dark, churning cloud. Oblivious, he just grinned cheerfully. "Let's run." And so, a perilous chase for their very lives began. The group fled in a panic, carrying the queen bee, with the thunderous buzzing growing louder behind them. Several days had passed since the chase began. Looking into the queen bee's sparkling eyes, Xiaolong reassured her, "Calm down. I'll take you somewhere. No one will bother you." During that time, the group had cut down on rest to move at full speed. Looking at their current state, they were a pathetic sight. As the group sat resting, Xiaolong suddenly looked into the distance and shouted, "They're here!" Everyone looked on in terror. One man cried out in despair, "Ah! I can't run anymore." On the way here, several members of the Poison Blood Squad had already fallen behind. He made a silent vow to properly learn Qinggong. After this was all over, suddenly, a man stumbled forward and screamed. The person next to him was stunned. "Huh? Another one left behind?" The group looked back, with worried expressions, only to see the man sprawled on the ground. A teammate yelled, "Tulong is down." And just like that, Huang Tulong of the Poison Blood Squad was left behind. Xiaolong immediately urged everyone on. "Hurry, use your Qinggong and run faster." He silently reasoned that if they put enough distance between themselves and the queen, they would be safer. Chubai panted, "Young Master, Xiaolong, can we really escape?" With a hint of uncertainty, Xiaolong replied, "Maybe." 3 days later, despite his best efforts, 𝑰𝒏💔 could go on no longer. and collapsed to the ground. He coughed violently, gasping for breath as he told the two before him, "My apologies. Young Master Xiaolong, this is as far as I can go." The sight of Xiaolong and Huayin was truly pitiful, their hair a tangled mess. Xiaolong looked at him in shock, calling out worriedly, "Great Chief." Huayin was silent for a moment, then offered, "Xiaolong, let me carry you." Hearing this, he shyly refused. Young Miss Huayin, there's no need. I can walk on my own." Unexpectedly, Huayin rubbed her face with both hands. After gathering her spirits, she looked refreshed, smiling at him with determination. "I can do it. A member of the Tang family absolutely never gives up." At the main gate of the Tang family estate, two immaculately dressed guards stood watch, weapons in hand, performing their duties. When they heard footsteps in the distance, they glanced over, muttering, "Humph." As the figures drew closer, one of the guards exclaimed in shock, "Oh, the young miss has returned." Seeing the two exhausted figures with dark circles under their eyes, with Xiaolong supporting Huayin, the guard couldn't believe it. His jaw dropped. "Young miss?" The entire Tang family compound was thrown into chaos. A signal flare was fired, summoning the entire clan. The Grand Master and the Patriarch heard the signal and burst through their doors. The Patriarch asked worriedly, "Is something serious happening?" A man immediately reported, "It's young Miss Huayin. She has returned." The Patriarch saw his disheveled daughter being supported by servants, while Xiaolong stood anxiously beside her. The two of them looked utterly ravaged. The Patriarch couldn't believe his eyes. "Really?" He hugged his daughter, crying out in anguish, "Xiaolong, what is the meaning of this?" The boy quickly knelt and stammered an explanation. "Please calm down, father-in-law. Young Miss Huayin is only exhausted after 3 days of non-stop qinggong." But then, as if remembering something, his tone became serious. "But now is not the time to talk. We must get to the training grounds, quickly." The Grand Master heard this and asked in surprise, "What? The training grounds? Why?" Xiaolong didn't answer right away. Instead, he reached into his chest and pulled something out. He held up the queen bee in both hands for everyone to see and announced, "This is the queen of the golden-haired bee kings. Soon, the rest of the bees will arrive. We must get to the ancient tree in the training grounds immediately." The Grand Master couldn't help but laugh loudly. "Ha ha ha! This kid, he truly is something to look forward to. He's destined for great things." On the other side, the Tang family patriarch's expression was not so pleased. He demanded, "What? Weren't you supposed to be getting honey? Why did you bring back their queen?" Before Xiaolong could answer, the Grand Master clapped a hand on his shoulder. "All right, let's go," which made the boy yelp in surprise. "Huh?" Using his qinggong, the old man grabbed Xiaolong and leaped into the air, causing him to cry out, "Oh, good heavens." The people on the ground shielded their faces from the whirlwind of dust. Xiaolong was whisked through the air, held tightly by the old man, making him dizzy. Suddenly, he screamed in terror, "Ah, ah!" The Grand Master glanced at him with concern. "What is it?" Seeing a familiar dark golden cloud in the distance, Xiaolong urgently reported, "Old Master, the swarm. They're closing in." Hearing this, the old man remained calm. Quite a crowd. Did you bring every last one of them here?" With that, he accelerated. "They're right ahead. Let's pick up the pace." The sudden burst of speed made Xiaolong cry out. A woman shrieked in terror. The Grand Patriarch landed with a ground-shattering impact, sending rubble flying. He brought the young man to a massive, ancient tree and announced, "We're here, Xiaolong." He quickly cradled the bee queen and rushed toward the tree before them. Looking up at the colossal trunk, Xiaolong spoke, "Golden Fur Bee King, this is the place I promised you. From now on, this will be your home." The queen in his hands buzzed, flapping her wings in confusion. He pointed to a large hollow in the trunk and asked, "Will this suffice?" However, in reply, he heard only the whirring of wings. The Golden Fur Bee King flew cautiously to the tree. After a thorough inspection, she turned back to Xiaolong. For a moment, he could have sworn she was smiling. Seeing this, he was overjoyed. "It seems you're pleased, aren't you?" But as the swarm drew closer, the Grand Patriarch shouted, "Xiaolong, get away from there. The rest of them are coming." Hearing the call, he glanced back and replied, "Yes, Patriarch." As the swarm blotted out the sky, the sound was overwhelming. Everyone on the ground stared up in a mixture of awe and fear. But upon seeing her swarm, the Golden Fur Bee King buzzed with delight. With a triumphant cry, she swiftly led her subjects into the tree she had just claimed as their new hive. After the last bee entered, the Grand Patriarch stared at the scene, utterly speechless. In my entire life, he muttered. I have never witnessed anything like this. Xiao Long watched beside him, letting out a soft sigh. Seeing the swarm safely housed, he finally relaxed. The taming of the golden fur bee king was a success. Excellent. A bee extended its tongue. Drinking, from a wooden trough, he watched, satisfied, as the swarm gathered in clusters to drink the special water he'd prepared for them after their exhausting pursuit. It was laced with sugar to restore their strength. They always say, sharing a meal builds a bond, a simple act of kindness to earn their trust. Luckily, this world had something similar to sugar. What a fortunate turn of events. The members of the Tang clan stood by, observing. They're drinking so eagerly, one commented. Looking at them this closely, they're almost cute. As the golden fur bee king drank with satisfaction, he thought to himself, this should lower their guard a little. If they finally recognize him as their master, it would be even better. Suddenly, he cried out, "Ah, that's right." The patriarch turned, asking, "What is it?" He asked sheepishly. "What? What about Lady Hua-Un?" The old man shot him a sarcastic glare. "You're only remembering her now?" Recalling his daughter's state of collapse, his scorn deepened. "She was so exhausted I had to entrust her to her mother's care. I can't believe you made her use her movement technique for 10 whole days without rest." Hearing this, Xiao Long couldn't meet his eyes, and answered meekly, "Yes, father-in-law, I am truly sorry. We only slept about 4 hours each day, the rest was spent on the run." At that moment, the Grand Patriarch seemed to remember something else. "Xiao Long, what about the men you brought with you?" he asked with concern. "Where is the poison blood squad?" Xiao Long froze, sweat beading on his forehead. "Ah, I guess they're probably collapsed somewhere, back on the road. We might have to go retrieve them." Hearing this, the Grand Patriarch simply closed his eyes and let out a dry laugh. As ordered, the poison blood squad was later brought back safely, to the arms of their families. In Hua-Un's room, warm sunlight filtered through the window panes. After hearing Xiao Long recount the events, Hua-Un smiled brightly. "It seems those golden fur bee kings have recovered their strength. That's a relief." Xiao Long smiled in return. "Yes, my lady." Hua-Un thought of the bees, now gathering nectar deep within the mountains, of the Tang clan. He added, "Right now, they're feeding on the poison flowers in the mountains." She nodded. "Oh my, they look so adorable." Suddenly, from outside, a frantic shout cut through their conversation. "Master Xiao Long! Master Xiao Long!" Xiao Long glanced toward the door and asked, "Yes? What's the matter?" The servant, though panicked, tried to remain composed. He gripped the door with both hands and urged, "You need to come outside for a moment." He panted, then added, "The situation with the golden fur bee swarm. It's very strange. They seem to be searching for something." Hearing this, Xiao Long's expression grew serious. He immediately rushed outside, with Hua-Un following close behind. A few of the golden fur bees were already waiting. Seeing the swarm flying erratically above, he was shocked. What in the world? The moment he spoke, the entire swarm turned in unison, focusing on him. The sound of their wings was deafening. They began to swarm him, landing on his head and his clothes. He asked in confusion, "Hey, what are you all doing?" Hua-Un grew worried. Xiao Long, are you all right?" The bees ignored her, pulling insistently on his arm. Seeing them clamping down on his sleeves, he demanded impatiently, "Why are you acting like this?" Suddenly, his feet began to lift off the ground. He could only let out a helpless, bitter laugh. "Ah." The people below stared in disbelief as Xiao Long was carried into the sky by the swarm of bees. Hua-Un gasped, calling after him, "Xiao Long." The swarm carried him to the great tree and dropped him down. The buzzing was deafening as he stumbled to the ground. But when he saw the sight before him, his eyes widened in shock. He stared in disbelief, asking the bees, "Your hive. What happened here? What's going on?" A bee flew behind him and began to forcefully push him inside. He relented with a sigh and a small laugh. All right, I get it. You want me to go in." As he stepped inside, he took in his surroundings. Whoa. He saw rows of golden honeycomb, all perfectly arranged. He couldn't help but think, the hive is already nearly complete, and they're already gathering honey. A single bee slowly drifted toward him. He glanced over, confused. Huh? It was none other than the bee queen. She gazed at him with a strangely tender expression. She flew over and landed on his arm, her wings beating gently. He whispered, "Do you want me to lift you up?" In response, her wings beat, even more powerfully. But then, the rest of the swarm crowded him, clinging to his face until he could barely see. A headache began to throb. "These guys are holding on so tight. I can't even move." He lowered his head, lifting the queen as she wished. Her large, glittering eyes were fixed on him. The bee queen, slowly, closed her eyes. Her two front legs reached out, as if to touch his face. Xiaolong's eyes flew open in alarm. Huh? Wait a minute. But it was too late. The bee queen had already pressed herself against his face. A deep blush spread across his cheeks. He groaned internally. He felt something soft against his lips, and his entire body grew hot. His vision swam, and his head spun. He swallowed by instinct, and realized in a panic that something was flowing into him. The swarm buzzed all around them, witnessing the scene as Xiaolong was forcefully kissed by their queen. When she finally pulled away, a single, strange bubble formed between them. He hastily let her go, gasping for air. Phew. With his mouth sealed, a deep blush crept across the young man's face as he pointed, stammering, You're the queen bee. That was my first time. What in the world did you just do to me? A strange sensation washed over him as his entire body lost its strength. Panic flared in his heart, and he collapsed to the ground with a heavy thud, his eyes glowing with a strange light. He lifted his head, searching for the queen bee. He gritted his teeth in fury when he saw her, seemingly smiling down at him. He couldn't understand it. What did you give me? He wondered, after their intimate moment. After his encounter with the queen bee, Xiaolong lay curled up on the ground, his face twisted in agony. He let out a pained cough, a searing heat rising to his face as a trail of liquid dripped from his lips. White foam frothed at his lips. A strange, overwhelming itch swept through his entire body. He thrashed and rolled, but the agonizing sensation refused to subside as his vision began to blur. A viscous fluid streamed from his nose and mouth. He could hear his own heart pounding like a war drum. Reaching a trembling hand toward the bee queen, he struggled to cough out a single word. You. He choked out, his voice filled with disbelief. What? Did you feed me? As his eyelids grew heavy, he saw it looking at him with a strangely innocent expression, and just before darkness took him, he heard Huayin's frantic voice calling his name. Xiaolong, Xiaolong. Then, her desperate plea to the Grand Elder. Grandfather, something is wrong with Xiaolong. The old man's voice was grim. It seems he's ingested the essence of a spirit beast, one far too potent for him. As Xiaolong's world faded to black, he heard Huayin's panicked scream. Xiaolong, wake up! Stay with me! Then, the Grand Elder's commanding voice cut through the chaos. I will guide his qi. When he next opened his eyes, he saw Huayin about to place a cool towel on his forehead. Seeing him awake, she cried out in relief. Young master, you're finally awake. He sat up, rubbing his head and looking around dazedly. Where is this place? She replied. You're in the Tang sect's medical hall. She gently tucked a strand of hair behind her ear and explained everything. When we saw the golden-haired sovereign bee drag you away, grandfather and I rushed after you. But by the time we arrived, you were already unconscious. So, we brought you here. She looked at him with concern. Do you remember what happened? He hesitated for a moment. As the memory flooded back, he buried his face in his hands. A storm of chaos raged in his mind. My first kiss. Seeing his distress, Huayin grew even more worried. Xiaolong, are you all right? Does any part of your body feel strange? He remained silent, lost in thought. She suggested, should I call for grandfather? He quickly stopped her. No need. It's just that. He trailed off, letting out a long sigh as he tried to organize his thoughts. Finally, he spoke. The bee queen. It fed me its own food. I think that's what caused all this. Huayin's curiosity was piqued. What exactly did you eat? He seemed unsure himself. I don't know its proper name, he admitted. But if I had to call it something, I'd call it the royal sovereign's nectar. She repeated the strange name, a look of confusion on her face. Royal sovereigns. Nectar? He smiled and nodded. That's right. The bee colony gathers honey and pollen to survive. But only the worker bees, who toil their entire lives, eat just honey and pollen. She pressed on. And what about the queen bee? He answered immediately. From the moment it's born until its death, it consumes only the royal sovereign's nectar, created for it by the worker bees. The shocking realization finally hit him. The nectar the queen bee had forced him to eat was none other than its royal jelly. Huayin gently pieced it together. So that's what it was. The food that sustains a queen for its entire life. Suddenly, a thought struck him, and his voice filled with excitement. But the royal sovereign's nectar has other, more special properties. She immediately asked, what kind of properties? He spoke with growing enthusiasm. A normal worker bee only lives for about a month. But the queen, by consuming the royal sovereign's nectar, can live up to 60 times longer. Isn't that absolutely insane? She was stunned into silence. Xiao. Xiao Long. Calm down. A blush crept up her cheeks, and she coughed lightly to hide her embarrassment. Ahem. I see. So that explains it. She continued. The internal energy method you've been practicing is the 5 Venoms Unity art. It's only a beginner's technique, so it can't absorb all the spiritual energy from a potent elixir. Hua Yin let out a sigh of relief. However, the honey of the golden-haired sovereign bee is equivalent to 2 months of inner energy. Does this mean, Xiao Long, that you gained 60 times that effect? That you've acquired 10 years of inner energy in an instant? She smiled warmly. Congratulations on this fortuitous encounter. He was utterly speechless. 10 years of inner energy? Just then, Hua Yin hesitated again. And there's more. She used a cloth to hide her growing blush and said, You should take a look in the silver mirror. It seems the royal sovereign's nectar has other effects as well. Hearing this, his eyes widened in shock, and he repeated her words. Other effects? Xiao Long slowly raised a hand to his own face. A silver mirror? He wondered. And sure enough, when he saw his reflection, he was stunned. He touched his cheek, his voice a soft whisper. Something's different. He was beginning to understand. The royal jelly. It can do this? Where did the country bumpkin from Hainan go? Xiao Long gently traced the lines of his face. His features had become more refined, more elegant, and his skin, it was softer, smoother, almost like a woman's. As a horrifying thought crossed his mind, beads of sweat formed on his forehead. His face turned beet red, and he forgot to even pull his hand away from his cheek as he imagined himself in a female form. Hello, a high-pitched voice echoed in his head. I'm Wei Xiaoling. He grabbed his face in pure terror. This is what the queen bee eats? He quickly ducked his head, his hands fumbling for the sash of his pants. He held his breath, not daring to make a sound. Then, he checked to see if his little brother was still there. After a thorough inspection, he collapsed onto the floor. Staring up at the ceiling, he let out a massive sigh of relief. Thank goodness. It's still where it's supposed to be. He recalled Hua Yin's words that if the Grand Elder hadn't guided his qi, something terrible might have happened. I nearly died. I should probably thank him properly. Xiao Long walked down a familiar path, but something felt strange. He could feel eyes on him. Everyone was staring. Seeing the young ladies giggling amongst themselves, he thought, why am I noticing all these strange looks today? Is it because my inner energy has increased? He bolted like a startled ghost. First, I need to get out of here, he told himself, leaving a trail of cheerful laughter behind him. At the dining hall of the Sichuan sect, known as the Sichuan House, Xiao Long stood outside the door, hesitating. He didn't dare to enter, choosing instead to peek inside. The table was laden with a feast of delicious dishes, a symphony of colors and aromas. Everyone was already seated as servants brought out the final courses. As the lady of the house turned her head, her eyes landed on him. After a moment of observation, she exclaimed, Oh, my son-in-law is looking much brighter. Then she asked, Is your body feeling better now? Xiao Long bowed his head respectfully, hands clasped. Yes, mother-in-law. I apologize for making you worry. She clapped her hands cheerfully. Nonsense. A fortuitous encounter like this is cause for celebration. Then she turned to tease her daughter. My. Oh my. Just look at that skin. Hua Yin will surely love this. Hua Yin's face turned beet red with embarrassment. Mother, she stammered, trying to change the subject. Xiao Long, you should come sit down too. Amidst the ladies' joyful laughter, he softly replied, Yes. As everyone settled in to eat, a servant brought out the last dishes. While pouring tea, the sect leader asked with concern, Xiao Long, are you feeling better? He nodded obediently. Yes, father-in-law. I'm sorry for causing you to worry. Then, he added with deep respect, And thank you, grandfather. I heard you personally tended to my condition. The Grand Elder simply smiled. A fortuitous encounter is something to be happy about. The sect leader then interjected, Now, tell us what happened. I've heard the gist of it from Hua Yin about this royal sovereign's nectar. But what really transpired? Xiao Long didn't know where to begin, instinctively reaching up to touch his face. Well, you see. As the memory of his first kiss flashed in his mind, he closed his eyes and continued. I think the queen of the golden-haired sovereign bees was pleased with the new hive and wanted to repay me. As a result, I was dragged back to the nest and suddenly fed its royal jelly. He concluded cheerfully, I believe that's how this whole incident started. The lady of the house covered her mouth. How bizarre. Meanwhile, the Grand Elder marveled, for a mere insect-grade venomous creature to understand gratitude. He then posed a question. Could it be that we should seek out more of this bee king's nectar? If we can find it, it would be an incredible boon for our Tang family. The The patriarch added, "The honey of the golden-haired bee king was already priceless. If this is the royal nectar itself, its value would be immeasurable." The madam, far more interested in its rumored beautifying effects, excitedly asked, "Son-in-law, is it possible? Can you find more of this bee king's nectar?" As all eyes turned to him, the main character let out a soft cough. Yin also turned to ask, "That's right, Xiaolong. Is it possible to acquire more?" He closed his eyes and gave a slight nod. He said, thinking to himself. For ordinary bees, you just need to build multiple queen cells, called royal stages, and trick the worker bees into collecting royal jelly. But when he recalled the image of Bai fleeing in terror from the swarm, he knew, Sir Xiaolong, this situation is completely different from the textbook methods. He realized that trying such a simple trick on the highly intelligent golden-haired bee king would only end with him being turned into a human beehive. Thinking of the queen's innocent appearance, he pondered deeply. Royal jelly is meant to nourish larvae, but I was fed directly by the queen herself. I wonder, is this substance fundamentally different? After a minute of heavy silence, he spoke up. To be frank, I believe it's impossible. Hearing this, the Grand Patriarch immediately asked, "Impossible? What is the reason?" The madam also chimed in anxiously. "Son-in-law, why can't it be done?" He replied simply, "Even if it could be obtained, who would dare to consume it?" The Patriarch began to speculate. Huh? Does it taste bad? Or perhaps it has a foul smell? The young man slowly shook his head. No, it's not that. Then, he delivered the shocking answer. That bee king's nectar is secreted from the queen's mouth. It seemed it had to be transferred directly to be effective. To avoid any misunderstanding, he tried to explain further. It's like a kiss. It requires mouth-to-mouth contact. The queen's essence must enter the mouth directly to be transferred. The Grand Patriarch's jaw dropped, a look of pure shock and confusion on his face. What? Direct contact? With the queen bee? The madam was also stunned. Huh? What does that even mean? The Patriarch could only let out a defeated sigh. It seems our hopes are dashed. There's no way to get more. Unless, Xiaolong, you are personally favored by the golden-haired bee king. No one else stands a chance. Suddenly, a sharp clatter echoed as a pair of chopsticks fell to the table, grabbing everyone's attention. Yin wasn't looking at him, but she asked in a low, trembling voice, "Mouth-to-mouth contact?" She couldn't help but cover her own mouth as she secretly whispered to him, "Xiaolong, did you really have mouth-to-mouth contact with the golden-haired bee king?" And that's where today's chapter ends. Don't forget to hit that like button so Go can bring you more amazing series. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.